Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Utah football camp continues. Practice sound is available at ESPN700sports.com on the ESPN 700 app in the on-demand section. I am bad at predictions sometimes. I will predict today's show is great. Adam Rittenberg at noon, Devin Dampier at 1. At 11:30, we'll be talking some Broncos with Ryan Edwards, who is the Broncos radio studio analyst. Obviously, the Denver Broncos roster has a lot of Utah connections, and because of the geographic proximity, is a de facto home team for plenty of Utahns. So I feel confident in that prediction being accurate. It's going to be a fun show today. I have also predicted that billable hours will be undefeated this season, this offseason. And every storyline that keeps coming out only confirms that risk-averse prediction. Right now, district judges are all over the country trying to ruin college football for the season by granting temporary restraining orders and injunctions, allowing players who were drafted or signed NFL contracts to be eligible to come back and play college football. Not next year, but this year. We are 2 weeks away from week 1 games. In fact, we are exactly 2 weeks away from Utah's first game against the University of Idaho at Rice-Eccles Stadium. That'll be a Thursday night affair that all of us have been holding our breath waiting for. The week 0 games are 5 days before that. So we're 9 days away from week 0 college football games, and there are judges out there trying to insert their robes into the conversation around college football, letting guys like former BYU athlete, all Big 12 offensive lineman Waylon Lapuaho have another year of eligibility, and he's heading into the transfer portal, and who knows where he's going to end up. That is enough of a storyline. We could start the whole segment on it. We could start the whole show with it. But we're not going to, because news broke yesterday that once again, billable hours will remain undefeated because there is a legal battle brewing between the University of Utah and one Coach Whittingham. Not that one. Whittingham the younger. Freddie Whittingham. Longtime tight ends coach at the University of Utah. Before that, he was involved in the player personnel department before he was an on-field coach. He is, of course, the brother of Kyle Whittingham. And to be fair to Freddie, he did an excellent, excellent job coaching the tight ends at the University of Utah. I don't know the exact number if you go all the way back through Utah football's history of how many NFL tight ends the university produced before Freddie Whittingham was the tight ends coach. But I bet the number of NFL tight ends that he coached at the University of Utah probably matches the 100-plus years before. He was a really good tight ends coach. He did an excellent job of making the tight end a feature position at the University of Utah when, in the spread concepts that Urban Meyer helped popularize, they weren't really a thing. Ron McBride was more of an old school, traditional pro-style offense guy, but there has not been a laundry list of uber productive tight ends that went through the University of Utah football program. So on one hand, there are fans, and I've heard from several of them already, 877-353-0700. Tell me your thoughts on the University of Utah suing Freddie Whittingham for money owed for breach of contract and at least $1 million in general and special damages on a fiduciary duty claim. plus punitive damages. I am not going to pretend that I know exactly how to parse out that legalese, but the long and short of this suit is centered around a timeline when Kyle Whittingham was leaving the University of Utah and Freddie Whittingham was following him to the University of Michigan. All right? Freddie Whittingham's contract at the University of Utah was supposed to go until the end of January 2027. His base salary was something like $550,000 a year. It's somewhere in this article, which for a position coach, for a college football coach, obviously it's not a huge number. When you compare it to the number on the check that the University of Utah had to write Kyle Whittingham just months ago, it's a nothing burger, right? And you don't like to see 2 weeks ahead of a season legal battle between Utah and a Whittingham. You don't like to see that. This is a PR nightmare, if we're being honest. But let's talk about what it really is at the University of Utah. There's some important details in the reporting done in The Athletic, in the reporting done in the Salt Lake Tribune, and how you put a hierarchy on the importance of those details, I guess, is going to be partially dependent on your feelings about Kyle Whittingham. Your feelings about Kyle Whittingham probably extend at least to some degree towards Freddie Whittingham. Your feelings about the value of money and the importance of money in the college football landscape right now are going to help you prioritize, or maybe confuse the way you prioritize, depending on how your brain works. The other stuff mentioned here about, the fact that, 5 players ended up at Michigan that were in their own right contractually obligated to the University of Utah. And that doesn't happen without the influence of coaches. That is the emotional spark plug for a lot of fans, right? Fine, you're a coach, you want to leave, go ahead, good riddance. How dare you? Don't you dare touch those players. Don't you talk to those players. Don't you tamper with those players. That's not even what this suit is about. It's mentioned in there. It's part of it. And for the fan, it's the thing that hurts you the most. It's what cuts you the deepest. But it's not what the suit is about. What the suit is about is the University of Utah had a contract with a grown adult professional coach. That coach decided he wasn't going to fulfill the contract. He was going to leave with his brother to the University of Michigan because, of course, he was always going to do that. Given the option, 100 times out of 100, he's going to do that. He's not the only coach on the staff who did that. He's the only coach being sued. Why? This is the most important part of the article. This is the most important part of the case. I have an immense amount of love for former tight ends coach and part-time voiceover artist Freddie Whittingham. Remember on some of the 22 Forever stuff, it was his voice.
That's right.
As the narrator. Dulcet tones. He sounds great.
You know what? Maybe we'll give you a call, Freddie Whittingham. We could maybe use those dulcet tones here at ESPN.
Freddie Whittingham, he's a charismatic guy. He's incredibly handsome. He's an excellent tennis player. I could keep saying all these nice things about Freddie Whittingham. Freddie Whittingham was contractually obligated to either remain coach at the University of Utah until the end of his contract, or he was going to have to pay back. He was going to have to pay a buyout like every other coach in college football when they leave a contract. Guess who pays these buyouts? When a head coach leaves, if there's a buyout, right? If Kyle Whittingham had left the University of Utah voluntarily before Michigan, if he had left the University of Utah voluntarily because Michigan offered him the job and said, hey, we want you, and Kyle Whittingham said, yep, let's do it. Guess what? They have to pay his buyout. That $13 million check that Utah just had to write never happens. Michigan has to pay the Kyle Whittingham buyout, whatever that number is and was. I don't even know what that number is and was, because guess what? Michigan didn't have to pay it. Because Utah, whether you think they should have done this or not, because the fact of the matter is Utah had already nudged him out the door and said, we're moving on to Morgan Scalley. And you know what? I think we're all fine with that at this point. Seeing the way that camp is working out, seeing how spring ball looked, seeing the way that the players have reacted to him, the knock on wood, the lack of injury that has been reported so far out of camp. Like, I think all of us are like, okay, cool. We've turned the page. We're ready to go. And that's probably why none of us wanted to see Utah suing Whittingham headline today, 2 weeks ahead of the football season starting. But I don't know how high a road you can take at a public university when there's at least $1.3 million in question here. I get it. $1.3 million compared to the hundreds of $millions in an athletic budget. It's kind of like a drop in the bucket, sure. But how many drops in the bucket have we seen public universities or private universities, for that matter, not fight over, not worry about until you get to this point where now there's a panic, now there's a deficit, now there's a, oh my gosh, we better do something in order to keep ourselves afloat in this revenue-sharing NIL era where everything just became a lot more expensive. Freddie Whittingham is the only coach that left the University of Utah while still under contract at the University of Utah that did not settle their buyout, and that is the only reason why this lawsuit is happening. Look, Freddie, call us. 877-353-0700. I have love for the Whittingham family till I'm dead, okay? I know that Utah fans don't like to hear me say that. It's not because Kyle was especially great to me when he was my coach at the University of Utah. It's because I respect the body of work done. I respect the way that they conducted themselves as stewards of the program, allowing us to have a respectable program to root for, right? That's just one of many reasons. If you're Freddie Whittingham and your agent, because they all have agents, if you're Freddie Whittingham and your agent said, don't worry about this, just don't worry about it, that agent is the reason why your name is in headlines today in your home state. If there was somebody in your circle of friends, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about, like, you know how many phone calls, text messages, letters must have been sent between the University of Utah and either Freddie Whittingham and his representatives before this headline became a reality? Do you know how many times this had to have been addressed privately before it became public like this? It's not a few. It's a lot of times. I understand the sentiment that's been expressed on social media and elsewhere. Just be done. Just turn the page. Just move on. Let's stop this. Yeah, we would love to. I would love to. I would love if we didn't have to talk about this, like, clinging on, difficult to separate. You know when you buy a brand new product and for whatever reason, the company that manufactures the product puts like a sticker on it, you know, and it's part of the purchasing label that has no purpose moving forward, and you have to peel that thing off, and then it leaves some of the adhesive behind. You're just like, what the crap is this?
And you can't scrub that off. Like, you could spend hours scrubbing and it just stays on.
Fingernail. That's what this is.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's not actually the athletic department's fault. It's not the University of Utah's fault. I know that there are a lot of us out here that don't like the way the Kyle Whittingham exit was handled, that are skeptical of the private equity situation and whether or not that's going to work to the benefit of Utah football, basketball, gymnastics, women's basketball, baseball, etc. long term. I think there are valid questions in the minds of many, even diehard Utah fans. But this one where you're like, oh, what are we doing? Why are you getting into a legal battle over, $1 million with a coach when you can just walk away? Let's just be done with this. Well, because this is the one coach who didn't settle things on their end of the bargain properly. In the article, it states that there was communication between Fred Whittingham or his representatives and the athletic department after, this is all early January, right? January 1st, all right, Kyle Whittingham's going. January 2nd, Kyle Whittingham and all of the assistants that are going with him are at a Michigan basketball game, right? He's talking to the maize and blue, saying, first order of business, I got to get my assistants. Oh, look, here they are. One of them happens to be his brother, who had just been communicated with that, hey, you still have a job here. Even though Kyle's gone, you still have a job here. Because in an ideal world, remember, the succession plan was for Morgan Scalley to be handed the keys to the kingdom, and the keys to the kingdom included the active contracts of whatever coaches were on staff. At that point, it would be Morgan's decision whether or not he wanted to fire guys, retain guys, and then we'd be talking about something else. If he had decided, I don't want to keep Freddie Whittingham, which I don't think he would have, because Freddie Whittingham, again, did an incredible job coaching tight ends and recruiting tight ends at the University of Utah. And, by the way, helping out on some of the biggest gets you ever had in running back commitments, in overall offensive player commitments. Freddie's a good recruiter, right? If Morgan had decided, all right, he's under contract through January, end of January 2027, Kyle has moved on into retirement or whatever else, I don't want to keep Freddie. We're firing Freddie. Now the university pays him the rest of his contractual salary. And that's the end of it, right? More likely is Morgan says, hey, your brother's gone. I'm the new head coach. Love for you to stay. These players love you. We on the coaching staff love you. And then it's Freddie's idea whether he wants to stay or go. And if he doesn't, and if he wants to just like retire, he wants to be done, I don't know what happens with this contract. Maybe there's a buyout. Maybe there's something. Maybe there's a mutual parting of ways. Maybe it's a cordially accepted resignation with some kind of caveat that you can't go coach somewhere else without offsetting language and a buyout there, whatever. But what actually happened was Freddie Whittingham was told, you are a coach at the University of Utah until end of January 2027. And he said, actually, I'm in Ann Arbor right now. Well, that's a breach of your contract. So, okay. And in the article, again, good job by, I'm looking at the Salt Lake Tribune, Jason Batakiao, shout out to you. He's done a really good job covering the Utes beat, and not all of it is the pleasant, fun stuff. There was communication, allegedly, reportedly, that Freddie Whittingham said Ward Emanuel, the now resigning, I should say, the exiting athletic director at Michigan, is going to contact you, University of Utah, regarding a buyout. Now, if Freddie Whittingham believed that was happening and he didn't have to worry about it and he didn't have to handle it, and he just wanted to go hit the ground running on recruitment, he wanted to hit the ground running on coaching up the guys that are already at Michigan, whatever, fine, sure. You let, like, one thing about college football coaches, they have agents for a reason. They want to deal with football. They want to deal with personnel. They want to deal with players. They want to deal with film. They want to deal with the weight room maybe. They don't want to deal with their own contract. That's why they have agents. Go get me the maximum amount of money. Get me this buyout. Get me that. I want access to the private jet. I want at least I guess if you're a position coach, you're not getting the private jet, right? But, like, give me the Mercedes from the local dealership, whatever. Just let me focus on football. Maybe Freddie believed that Ward Emanuel and Michigan was handling it and he didn't have to worry about any of this. At some point, though, the mail got to him. It's like, hey, you owe us the remainder of your contract because you didn't fulfill your contract. And this complaint, this lawsuit that is being issued at the University of Utah, that they're saying, okay, man, like, we've been talking about this for a while now, and you clearly are the only one who hasn't settled up, so we're going to have to pursue legal action here. And let's say that, let's just play out a hypothetical here, right? If you're Mark Harlan, I don't want to speak for Mark Harlan, but I could see a world in which Mark Harlan, for the next several months at least, maybe forever, doesn't want to hear the name Whittingham. He doesn't want to see Whittingham on his desk. I could see Mark Harlan having Whittingham fatigue because he knows that one of the big questions about his legacy as an athletic director at the University of Utah is going to center around the way that Kyle Whittingham was handled. Not Freddie Whittingham, but the way Kyle Whittingham was handled. You don't want the Freddie Whittingham $500,000 to come across your desk. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to think about it. Let's say that Mark Harlan, and this is a total hypothetical. Again, I'm not speaking for Mark Harlan. Let's say that Mark Harlan was just like, you know what? Let's just wash our hands of all things Whittingham. Let's just eat this cost. Well, guess what? It's a public university. There's an attorney general. There's a board of trustees. There's a university president. There's a state auditor. There's now a private equity firm that is counting every nickel, dime, and penny that comes in and out. And I don't know if Mark Harlan had any say in this at all. Maybe Mark Harlan was like, please, guys, I don't want to have to answer questions or phone calls about Freddie bleeping Whittingham. Please. How many other people are going to say, no, man, we've been operating at a deficit for years. We had to sell off the rights to our athletic department to private equity because we're experiencing a shortfall here. We're trying to move forward the right way. We're not going to walk away from more than $1 million. This, either directly or indirectly, this is a nice offensive tackle for Morgan Scalley. Absolutely not. We're not just going to eat this crap sandwich that Freddie Whittingham either deliberately or accidentally fed us. Maybe the high road, maybe the easy way is to just say, oh, let's get rid of it. Let's go. If this were Texas, Notre Dame, USC, Michigan, guess what's happening? $1 million, that's a rounding error for us. Just make it go away. I don't want to deal with the bad PR. Utah is not in that position. You should not be rooting for Utah to lose out on $1 million that is entitled to them contractually because of the language in a contract that a grown adult signed. This is not even remotely close to like, is Texas Tech going to try to get their money back from Brendan Sorsby? This is Freddie Whittingham. He's a hyper-intelligent, fully realized adult human being who signed a contract and then, according to all reports and documentation, didn't fully fulfill that contract. And the money is something that we've been trained as sports fans to care about. I don't want to care about it. Let's say that the money was the only issue. Let's say that Freddie Whittingham and the rest of those coaches on staff went to Michigan and they made no phone call. They sent no text message. They had no meeting with any Utah football player to say, hey, come with us. Let's say that the 5 Utah players, who happen to be 5 of the best players on the roster, let's say that all of those guys either stayed at the University of Utah or even transferred, but not to Michigan, to somewhere else, didn't follow this coaching staff. Everyone would feel differently about that. Everyone, if you take the best player that was in your room last year, J.J. Buchanan, and you take whatever money on the contract without fulfilling the contract, you've taken too much. I'm sorry, you have. I know that's not why the university or the athletic, like, they don't care. At least not on paper. They don't care as much. It's mentioned in the complaint. It's not the crux of the argument. It's about the timeline. It's about, hey, this is a contract you entered. You owe us this money. It's about the finances. The principle of the matter is, well, not only did you take the money or trying to take the money and run, you're also taking the player.
It's like what you hear about, like, really bad, like, felony charges, right? And let's say it's manslaughter, okay, vehicular manslaughter. And then you also, if you read all of the charges, you also see, oh, they got him for speeding too here. It's like prosecution, law enforcement, add as many charges as they can to try to get some kind of conviction to stick for somebody, right? that seemed to me why they put the J.J. Buchanan thing even in the lawsuit, to say, okay, you breached the contract. Here's all this like really important stuff about how you breached the contract and what we're entitled to because of it. Let's just also layer on the fact that you were counter recruiting.
Well, look,
which is also a breach of contract.
Again, if it were about that, if it were about the counter recruiting, if it were about and this is this actual bullet point being mentioned here, right? Freddie Whittingham failed to devote full-time attention and energy to being a coach for the university football program. Okay. Yeah. He never received written consent from Utah before engaging with the Wolverines about an assistant coaching position in Ann Arbor in January, as required by his contract. All right. Guess who else didn't do either of those things? As soon as Kyle Whittingham made it known that he was leaving, or that he was even sincerely thinking about leaving, Lewis Powell, Jason Beck, Jim Harding, everyone else, Coy Detmer Jr., all of these guys that followed Kyle Whittingham, on some level became less devoted to Utah football. Now, they did, in a lot of cases, what they had to do. And they fulfilled their final duties and like coached out the bowl game and did bowl prep and all that kind of stuff, right? And they went through the motions. Full-time attention and energy was not devoted the way that it was previous to them having some possibility of leaving for Michigan. It's the human nature of this thing, right? I promise you that Jim Harding did not get written consent from the University of Utah to talk to Michigan. Okay? It didn't happen. Because if he's still under contract and anyone at the University of Utah provides that written consent, that's malpractice and that person should be fired, right? So these things that are being mentioned in the contract, none of the coaches that left continued to serve full-time the right way. None of them got written consent. No, maybe some of them provided the Utes with written notice of their resignation. I don't know what that looks like. Does a Post-it note count? Does it have to be an email? Can it be something that you send via TikTok? I have no idea, right? Here's the bullet point that matters. Here's what separates the Freddie Whittingham situation and the reason he's being sued from the other guys that are not being sued. He did not pay liquidated damages required by his contract after leaving for Michigan. Utah was left holding a bag that they did not want to hold, that contractually they should not have to hold. The University of Utah is not suing Jason Beck. They are not suing Lewis Powell. They are not suing Coy Detmer Jr. They are not suing any of these people who also, on some level, breached their contract because they paid. And you know what?
Bottom line is the main thing, yeah.
And you know what? I bet not a dime came from any of their personal bank accounts. I would be willing to bet my whole salary that money came from the University of Michigan Athletic Department.
Because you mentioned that's how this is done. Technically, it's the coach that is on the hook for this, but that's factored into their new contract.
It's factored into the new contract. And guess what? They didn't have to pay, James. They didn't have to pay a head coach's buyout.
Right.
So they're laughing all the way to the bank because they're like, we could have had to pay $20 million to get the next choice out of their contract. And instead, we got all that. We get to keep that. Oh, and guess what? Utah's also going to pay Kyle Whittingham next year. Can you believe that? So they get the head coach at a discount, and maybe they have to pay the buyout for Beck, for Aaron Roderick at BYU.
For assistant coaches.
For the assistant coach. Maybe you have to pay those buyouts. And
which
the
combined...
the sum total of those buyouts is going to be like 1/15 of what a head coaching buyout is. So, like, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing the reaction of some Utah fans who have sort of an oppositional defiant stance with everything the athletic department does right now. And I understand the lens through which you're looking at this. I understand how you don't have to be the biggest fan of whoever's in charge whether it's the university president, the athletic director, maybe you don't think Morgan Scalley's the guy, whatever. This, though, is something that you just kind of had to do from the business standpoint. It sucks. Just like it would suck for Freddie Whittingham to have to write the check himself, but I bet you Michigan would have written it for him, and I bet at the end of the day, Michigan will write it for him.
This is also a couple of things. We got a text here that Sam, who's got a law degree, not practicing law, he points out just how bad a look it is that for Freddie that he's the only one that did not pay the liquidated damages, which we're also using buyout as synonymous for that. Technically, it's the liquidated damages. Sam's absolutely right about that. He asked, where is his agent in all this? I'm also asking, where is Ward Manuel and Michigan Athletic Department
What
in all
are you
this? Like,
doing?
this is yet another black mark, a very smaller one. This is like a dot with a pen, with a black pen, right? But it's another black mark on Ward Manuel's tenure as the AD of the University of Michigan, and yet another reason why Michigan fans and the University of Michigan should be feeling great about not having to deal with this guy at the end of this calendar year.
I don't know who Freddie Whittingham's agent is. Maybe he doesn't have one. That would be a rarity, right? He is disputing the fact that he owes liquidated damages, and that's why he didn't do it. If it's in the contract, I promise you the University of Utah has enough people who know how to read a contract that before any of this happened, before the first notice and the second notice and the third notice and the fifth notice and the collections notice and the filing was sent out, I promise they quadruple checked and said, yeah, he does owe us this money. And it's not a punitive amount of cash for an athletic department. The principle is enough for me. And it's not, I'm not even mad at Freddie Whittingham. I'm really not. Right?
Could have just been an omission,
this
like
could
a mistake
be
by omission. Absolutely. And
a
why
lack
would you
of
be
understanding. This could be a negligence thing. This could be whatever. I'm not even mad at Jason Beck for leaving. I'm not mad at Coy Dittmer Jr. for leaving. I'm not mad at Lewis Powell for leaving, all right? They can do what they want to do. If Freddie wanted to leave, he's following his brother, for hell's sake. Any other coach in the business would have done the same thing. But you can't be mad now that the university that you're under contract with comes back and says, actually, you do owe us this money. We're not just going to be like, high five, see you later. You owe us money. You breached your contract. We did not want you to leave. We did not want those players to leave. Yeah, I guess we did want your brother to leave, but that's our bad. These other guys who went with you, we didn't want Jason Beck to leave or Lewis Powell to leave either. They're gone. They paid us. You're the only one who didn't. That is the entirety of the issue. That's it. There's no more fine print to read. If he would have paid it, this story never happens. Even with, hey, you recruited players that were supposed to be at the University of Utah. Even with, hey, you never really sent us an official resignation letter. Hey, you never actually got permission to talk to the University of Michigan. Of course, nobody ever does it the right way when they're on their way out the door. Their agent calls or somebody talks to their best buddy and then the best buddy calls them or whatever. It's always some level of tampering. Schools don't sue over that if they get the money that is owed to them in the contract. That's the end of it. It's the whole thing.
Fired up today, OC. I can tell.
Well, it just bothers me because we're 2 weeks ahead of a football season, and it's a non-football story. It's a contract story.
Yeah. And I'll just be clear about this, too. The lawsuit was filed August 3rd. It's just now coming to light. But, yeah, that's the whole problem with the perception thing is, like, it might as well have been filed today.
And guess what? If it was filed on August 3rd, Michigan, with their $40 million roster and their $700 million athletic department, should have just been like, oh, our bad, Utah. Slipped through the cracks. Here's a check for 1.3 or whatever it is. Let's make this go away. I don't want our guy to have to be distracted by this.
It's dumb that it's 17 days since the filing and it's not a there hasn't been a quick settlement or anything that's come to light yet. But
Ward
these things always get dragged out, I guess.
Ward Manuel has a change jar in his office that could pay this.
You want it in pennies, quarters, nickels? I got you. You just have to roll it.
All right. We're way over time. It's going to be a fun show. Like I said, Adam Rittenberg's going to join us at noon. Devin Dampier at 1. And next, we'll talk a little Broncos football with Ryan Edwards, Denver Broncos insider. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. College football season right around the corner. NFL season right around the corner. Here in Utah, I don't have to tell a lot of you. The Broncos are often claimed as the de facto home squad. Plenty of Broncos fans here. We check in on Broncos country with Ryan Edwards, Broncos insider, radio studio analyst. Ryan, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving us some time. Let's start with a recent signing for these Broncos. Taylor Rapp, they're adding to the safety room. Obviously, he's a guy who's had some incredible career accomplishments so far as an NFL player. But what does it say about the defense and about that safety room in particular that they're adding someone at this juncture?
Well, I mean, your starters are set for the Broncos, and I mean they're certainly a very deep team. But that was kind of one of the positions for me that we kept coming back to when we were having discussions about what that was going to ultimately look like on the 53-man roster, because behind them you have Devin Key, who is an all-pro and special teams last year, but not a lot of reps at safety. And, of course, you have two starting safeties that both have injury history. So it was kind of like, all right, we have two safeties that have been hurt, And then behind them, you have Devin Key. You've got a draft pick in Miles Scott, who is a seventh rounder. You've got J.L. Skinner, who's in a fourth year, but has only been a special teams guy. So, and they got Tyson Anderson in the offseason, who was from Cincinnati, but he was also a special teams guy. So just not a lot of proven talent behind them. So I think for this team with their aspirations, it made a lot of sense to add a guy that has starting experience.
And let's talk about those aspirations. I think that, a lot of us thought maybe their timeline would be a little bit slower, that it might take Bo Nix and company a little longer to become a contender again in the AFC. And I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but it seems like they're, foot on the gas pedal right now, thinking that the Super Bowl window is opening. Is that where the aspirations lie for the Denver Broncos?
I mean, it certainly should be, right? You were an injured quarterback away from the Super Bowl last year, and not that repeating success is a guarantee in this league. We certainly see it all the time. That is not. But they believe that the team, that's the reason why they brought back so many players. They believe the team and the culture that they've built here is sustainable, and they think a healthy Bo Nix in year three, maybe even with maybe it's a little tweak to the play calling. Let's just call it that. Davis Webb now calling plays instead of Sean Payton. They think those are all the reasons why this team can ultimately get over the hump and maybe win one this year. A lot of people are predicting in the AFC West that they're going to be the third place team, but they think they're the team to beat. And honestly, after watching them in training camp over the last few weeks, I could see why.
The Davis Webb thing really fascinates me, partially because it makes me feel old. It felt like not so long ago I was covering him in college football. And, Sean Payton has for years and years been thought of as, one of the masterminds in the NFL. And the acknowledgement, his personal acknowledgement that, like, hey, maybe it's time to hand this off to somebody younger is a conversation in and of itself. But you've got a 31-year-old calling plays for a Super Bowl contender, what we think might be a Super Bowl contender. It's just wild how the NFL is swinging so young in some of these incredibly important positions.
Well, it really is. And I mean, it certainly caught some of us off guard. Sean's been saying things like this for the last couple of years where he makes some references to driving in the rain at night and, just kind of like, hey, I'm not as young as I used to be. And I certainly see the end in some respects, especially in this case of play calling. But I think that he's just in a spot now where he brought in this new culture. It's a winning culture. He wants to be able to focus on a lot of things. He's a teacher by nature. I mean, when we see him out of practice, he works with the defense, the offense, special teams. He loves going over sort of the situational moments in games and going to both sides of the ball and saying, this is what you need to accomplish. And then the other side, okay, I need you guys to do this. And so even though he is a play caller on offense, he really likes to be a coach of the team. So in some ways this has been telegraphed, but still, he's considered still one of the best offensive minds in the game. And to turn over play calling, especially after winning 14 regular season games last year and a postseason game, was a bit surprising. But that's how highly they think of Davis Webb. Certainly, Davis had a lot of offers, interest, outside Denver, and he decided to come back, and he was rewarded for it.
Part of the reason why I think so many people here in Salt Lake City are interested in the Broncos, even if they're not your favorite NFL team, they have a bunch of guys from maybe your favorite college team. We're the home of the Utes here, and there's Utes all up and down this roster. Garrett Bowles, of course, has been a massive staple for this Broncos offensive line for a while. And then much further down the depth chart, you've got guys trying to make a roster. Caleb Lohner, who was a college basketball player, only played 1 year of college football. Dallin Bentley was a surprise and a revelation for people on this Utah football roster last year. Kyrese Rowan was a guy who spent some time here in Salt Lake City. These guys on the bubble, battling it out. Who's going to potentially make a roster? Who's a practice squad guy? Who's going to be sent their walking papers?
Well, I can officially tell you that Garrett Bowles is on this team.
Okay,
so
good.
Whatever speculation is out there, hopefully that doesn't break any hearts. No, he's been sensational, obviously, since he got here. He was drafted in the first round. Tim Patrick was another guy that we had here for quite some time. That was a standout player and got a second contract. But yeah, I'd say, let's see here. Dallin Bentley, I'd love to see make the roster, but it's a lot of names in that room, including Caleb Lohner. So Caleb's been a little banged up. He's been in a boot now for a few weeks. So I would expect Caleb Lohner's probably going to be shut down, or they might put him on short-term IR. They might try to find a way to do that. But it seems because of the names and the other guys that they'd like to keep in that room that unfortunately for him, he needs the reps. He needs the time. Sean Payton was very complimentary of him in the offseason, but he had some surgery and then he just hasn't been able to get back on the field. But Dallin Bentley, I've really liked what I've seen out of him as a blocker. Hasn't gotten an opportunity yet as a receiver very much in camp. I like his projection long term, but I feel like because he's a seventh-round pick, they might try to just put him on the practice squad for a season. Maybe he's a call-up if they get injured, because they also drafted another tight end, Justin Jolie. And so because you drafted two tight ends, you have Evan Ingram, you have Adam Troutman, who you paid, you have Nate Atkins, who's kind of a fullback / tight end, halfback guy. So they have so many different guys that they'd like to sort of keep here. I would think that the other guys, including Kyrie Rowan, are really kind of hoping to get kind of a practice squad opportunity.
Jonah Ellis, I hope, is firmly on this roster, and a guy that has shown some flashes. What do you see his role being this coming season?
Yeah, he's great, and he's been one of the standouts at camp, and that's not too much of a surprise. It was a fascinating offseason for Ellis because the discussion around him was like they were thinking about moving him to inside linebacker, like off-ball linebacker, and we kind of were like, man, he's really good as an edge. Like, why are we messing with this thing? And then we get to OTAs, and we see him only lining up at edge, and then Sean Payton gets asked about it. He's like, no, we decided he's just too good there. We're going to leave him there. So,
okay.
Which is the right call, but it was just fascinating because all the way back at the owners' meetings in like February and March, we were told, yeah, we really want to get him on the field more, so we're thinking about putting him at inside linebacker. And we were like, I mean, maybe, but we'll see. So anyways, he's an edge, and he's been great at edge. He's been phenomenal. He had a little bit of an injury last year, but it feels like that's all behind him. He's going to be the third edge on this team right now. I mean, he's the next guy up. Jonathan Cooper, Nick Benito are your starters. There's certainly a potential of a suspension for Jonathan Cooper, though I wonder if that might be kicked more to a next year conversation. But Jonathan Cooper, Nick Benito starters, and then Jonah Ellis is your third guy, and he's earned it. He's been nothing short of phenomenal, and I expect a big year out of him.
What about Karene Reed? He's a guy that we loved here at the University of Utah.
Yeah.
He's kind of old for being only 2 years in the league. And we see all these flashes and good things happen in preseason games, and then he bounces it around on a practice squad or whatever else. What is his future with this Broncos squad?
I think he's one of their four. Honestly, he made the 53-man roster last year. A little bit of a surprise because I think most of us had Lavelle Bailey penciled in there, but he broke his leg this year, so he's no longer in the running for that. They have added an inside linebacker in Red Murdoch and Torian York this offseason, and both of them have had standout moments. I think Red Murdoch makes the roster. The draft pick. He's been very good in camp. But I think Karene Reed, because he just continues to just be around the ball and make plays. He had a hand in, quite literally, the pick 6 last week against the Falcons. He tipped the ball to Jahdae Barron, who returned it to the house. They really like him. They like that he can play special teams as well. He's just shown a lot of versatility for this roster. So, yeah, I think he's done everything he needs to do and just continue to have a couple of nice preseason games. And I put him in – right now I've got him as one of my 4 inside linebackers.
What else are you looking for in this next preseason game? What's that, tomorrow for the Broncos?
Yeah, tomorrow night. I think we're excited to see Bo Nix back out on the field a little bit. I mean, certainly the health is the most important thing in these preseason games. I mean, it's tune-up, right? It's exhibition, but you want to see him get out there feeling comfortable. Maybe we'll see Jalen Waddle as well. I doubt we'll see Marvin Mims, but we'll see the complement of players. The Broncos have been really banged up at center here during camp. They're on like their 4th or 5th string center who's going to be starting in front of Bo Nix. So I imagine that they're just going to want to see whatever they can out of him and then get him out of there. I want to continue to see Jonah Coleman, who is out of Washington. He's had a terrific camp. Had a couple of nice runs there in the Atlanta game. I think they want to continue to see him just mature and play well. because they really believe in that running back room. We'll see if J.K. Dobbins plays at all. But, I think, again, you just kind of want to come out healthy. The defense looks like they're ready to go already. The offense, I think, is going to be more eyes on that, especially with Bo Nix back out there.
Ryan, as you handicap what we think this division looks like, I mean, Jim Harbaugh will tell you that Justin Herbert is the second coming of whatever. Are the Chiefs still the Chiefs, right? Are we going to see Fernando Mendoza or Kirk Cousins more? What do you make of this division?
Yeah, there's a lot of good teams, a lot of good coaching, especially in this division. I think it continues to be like everybody believes the Chiefs are just going to bounce back, and it might be a little bit of more of a ramp for Patrick Mahomes in the Chiefs. I don't love all their offseason moves. I think that they've got some holes still on that roster. So I'm not completely buying them, and I'm not completely buying Patrick Mahomes is back until I really see it for myself. So I'm going to wait on that one. I did like the Mike McDaniel hire as an offensive coordinator for the Chargers. I think it's going to help the run game a lot. But you're right. I mean, Jim Harbaugh is so positive about everybody, so it's always tough to know like what's the truth. But I think the Broncos are the team to beat. And it sounds homerish and I mean whatever, but it's like, hey man, you won it last year. You won it, convincingly. Let's have everybody chase you. And I like to see the Broncos in that position too. They're so used to being the underdog. They're so used to being the team that sneaks up on people. Now they get to be kind of a front runner. Like what does that look like? How do they handle the pressure of teams giving them their best shot? I'm fascinated to see, but I think the Broncos are the most complete team in the NFL. They're the deepest team in the NFL right now. Watching them in training camp, these practices, there's just not a lot of holes in what they're doing. So health permitting, I like the Broncos' chances. And then I think the Raiders, you just kind of want to see for a year what that looks like. I do think they're improved. I think, people are a little more down on Fernando Mendoza than they should be. But Kirk Cousins and Clint Kubiak, they'll be able to sort of scratch out at least a better performance, but probably still a year away from actual competition in the division.
The Broncos can't be the deepest, most complete team in the NFL unless during camp they have influencers and TikTok stars out canoodling with players like apparently everyone else does. Who is the WAG star of Broncos camp, if there is one?
Oh boy, that's a great question. Because I tend to be a little more focused in on the football stuff.
Why? Wait, Ryan, why? Why would you ever be focused in on what you're actually supposed to be focused in on?
Yeah, I know it's weird, right? It's just maybe it's a flaw, a personality flaw of mine. Yeah, and I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, when we had Russell Wilson here, I mean, my God, it was it's pretty easy with Sierra wandering around. But I don't. This is such a business-like operation that Sean runs. There's not a lot of frills. It's all when practice ends, we go from one standing spot that we're allowed to be in to the other standing spot that the media are allowed to be in. And when that session is over with the pressers, then we go from that spot to the next spot. Like it's all business. It's designed that way. He got there and he said, we're not going to be doing this kissing babies and, extra stuff. And he's really whittled down a lot of the access as well. So, honestly, it would be tough to know like who, all the extracurriculars, because at this point, this team just seems pretty locked in on what they're supposed to be doing.
Football being about football. Weird. All right.
Yeah.
Ryan, appreciate you giving us some time today. Enjoy the season. We'll check in as soon as we can. All right.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks, guys.
Broncos radio studio analyst Ryan Edwards. You can hear the Broncos' next preseason game. That's tomorrow on ESPN The Fan, starting at 6 p.m. That is your home of Broncos football and part of Utah's ESPN radio network. A reminder to all of you out there who are trying to capitalize on these last few weeks of great weather, a good way to do so is to get out even during one of these weekdays. Maybe you take a long lunch or you get off a little bit early and you go out for a round of golf. Stansbury Park Golf Course. If you haven't tried it, it's time for you to jump on I-80, head west. Great greens, fast pace of play, $45 rounds during the weekdays. That's for a round of 18, by the way. $50 on the weekends. Not as heavily crowded as some of the courses here in the Valley, so you can go as fast as you want to go. Maybe you only want to shoot 9. You probably won't even need to take the long lunch. Tell them OC sent you. Go book a tee time at stansburypark.gov/golf course, stansburypark.gov/golf course. And if you didn't prepare for it today, you're like, I don't have the clubs in the car. It's fine. Just pop out there, rent some clubs, rent a cart, play a great round. PGA Tour leaderboard update coming next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Time for a PGA Tour leaderboard update. FedEx Cup playoffs, the BMW Championship, brought to you by Uinta Golf by Worldwide Golf. Right now, 50% bonus trade-in on all new inline golf clubs. Browse hundreds of new inline drivers, fairways, irons, wedges, and putters, and get 50% in bonus trade-in value. Uinta Golf locations all up and down the Wasatch Front. Worldwide Golf for the online store. James, what does that leaderboard look like?
So yeah, as you said, we're in the FedEx Cup playoffs. This is like the 12th major. OC, like this is so big. No, I kid. It is a big deal on the PGA Tour for sure. Not as big a deal as the majors in golf. Gary Woodland is your leader. He's 3 shots up at 6 under on Justin Thomas, who's tied for second. Ryo Hisatsune, Sungjae Im also tied for second. Aaron Rai and Colin Morikawa are in a group tied for 5th at 2 under, 4 shots off the lead, and that rounds out your top 10. Xander Schauffele's in that giant group at 2 under as well. And then because this is the second leg of the FedEx Cup Championship, I'll update you on the FedEx Cup standings. Scotty Scheffler, surprise, surprise, is leading overall in the FedEx Cup standings, not among the leaders in this group. And as we saw last year, OC, there were tournaments where players, because they have enough points to give up, they have enough points to spare, if you will. There were players that just skip some of these playoff tournaments, so that could be the case for Scotty Scheffler. I don't know. Kind of the quirky thing about this FedEx Cup Championship, but he's your leader overall, despite not being near the top and maybe not playing in the BMW Championship this week.
That leaderboard update is brought to you by Uinta Golf by Worldwide Golf. We'll start hour number 2 with ESPN College Football Insider Adam Rittenberg. That's next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in Adam Rittenberg, my friend, senior college football insider and writer over at ESPN Rittenberg, if you're not already following him on the tweet machine. Adam, welcome back to the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, OC. How you doing, brother?
Doing awesome, man. We're 2 weeks away from Utah football season kicking off, and even sooner when we have those week 0 games coming up. So we get to stop with all these kind of dumb legal stories that are dominating the offseason and get to real football. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. It's an offseason, obviously, that has contained a lot of that type of news, whether it's the individual player eligibility cases and the injunctions that have gone on, or the attempt to get a bill passed through Congress. It's a different sport certainly than the one I started covering, but the one thing that doesn't change is the excitement at this time of year, rightfully so, for the games and the teams and the coaches and everything that we actually love about college football, which is now only a few days away.
Relative to those individual eligibility cases and, players seeking and apparently in some cases being granted a surprise 5th year of eligibility, how do the coaches that you've talked to about this feel about, another layer being added to the mix? I imagine there's some who need a little help on the offensive line or the linebacker room or whatever that might be relieved by this, but I don't know if that's a universal opinion or whatever. What have the coaches been saying?
Well, yeah, I think on the whole, they loop all this in with the same kind of chaotic existence and environment that we have right now in college football. But at the same time, you have some of them that are saying, hey, we could use, that player who was cut from an NFL roster, or, hey, we've got a hole at safety because of an injury, or, these guys just aren't performing. And so, on the one hand, I think, globally they realize it's not good, but it also is something that can help them individually. And this sport has always been driven by self-interest and not necessarily what's good for everyone. And so that's why, I get what some of the things they're saying about why this is bad, but at the same time, everyone could also just not take these players, and we know that's not going to happen.
The University of Utah back in the headlines today for a reason that not a lot of us wanted them to be. There's a lawsuit being filed by the university against former tight ends coach Freddie Whittingham, who, of course, is the brother of former head coach Kyle Whittingham. Both Kyle and Freddie are at Michigan now. And, it's a breach of contract with damages kind of a situation going on here. Notably, Freddie is the only former Utah coach that did not settle up, did not pay the damages for leaving his contract at the University of Utah, and that's why this lawsuit is happening. But I wanted your perspective on this. I don't pretend I'm not too close to this. There's a certain contingent of the fan base here that's like, can we just stop and just let this stuff go away? But what are your thoughts on a lawsuit between Utah and Freddie Whittingham?
Yeah, it's certainly unfortunate just because I keep coming back to the Whittingham name and the success that both Kyle and Freddie had at Utah for many years, and the longevity and just the legacy that they'll leave there. And, nothing like this is going to tarnish that, but it certainly strains the relationship between the university and the Whittingham family, which is obviously, that's been something that's come up here quite a bit since the end of last season. A certain part of me is like, yeah, just move on. This is not an insignificant amount of money, but it's certainly not, hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars that are at stake. But, legally, Utah does feel it's entitled to some compensation for the way that he left and some of the steps that you're supposed to take when you leave one job for another that it's alleging Freddie Whittingham didn't take. So from a legal perspective, I get it. Is it really necessary? I think that's the case that's the thing we always ask when it comes to legal proceedings. That's certainly up for debate, but we'll see where this ends up going. It's just unfortunate because Kyle Whittingham is an incredible coach, and I think Utah fans recognize that and certainly want to celebrate him. And these things make that relationship a little bit more strained.
Well, it seems like it's going to come out to like $1 million and a half here, which for you or me, that's a lot of money for an athletic department in Power 4 football now that's, that you spend that on styrofoam cups. So when you look at it from the financial perspective, there's two different ways I think you could view it. You got to maximize every dollar you can right now in a very expensive landscape, but also, like you just mentioned, and that we talked about on the show earlier, right? It's further straining the whole Whittingham, Utah thing, and is it worth the PR battle, even if you have to eat the $1 million or whatever, because it's a public university? Does the athletic department even get to make that call, or does it the state auditor come down and eventually force this? I mean, is it worth it over what is, in the grand scheme of college football, a pretty small, insignificant amount of money?
Right, and it's somewhat of a drop in the bucket, but I think your point is really important. That every state is different, and who is really making these decisions? Could it be coming from the university level? Could it be coming from the state level? There's also precedent, which is something that we've all dealt with in our jobs, whether we want something or feel we're entitled to something. Well, if we gave you that, it would set precedent. Well, in this case, I'm sure there's some of Utah's folks are saying, hey, if we just let this slide, what's going to stop the next assistant or coordinator or maybe even head coach from leaving without, following these steps and at least giving us a chance to talk to you or do what needs to be done to create a more graceful exit. So, clearly there's emotion involved here. Again, I just keep coming back to the unfortunate nature of it because of what that family and certainly Kyle in particular did for Utah.
Adam Rittenberg is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things college football. You wrote an excellent piece for ESPN about one of our favorite guys, even though he's at the hated rival. Kalani Sitake is, like mentioned in your article, everyone's favorite guy. He's everyone's favorite coach. He is awesome as a human being, as a football coach, everywhere. I love that your article shined a light on that. Why was this the angle taken? It's a fascinating time at BYU. It's a fascinating time in college football in general. Why was his popularity, for lack of a better term, the focus of the article?
Well, I think it started with just what you outlined, OC, as far as how he's viewed among his peers. And I think if there was one relationship that jumped out to me the most, it would be his friendship with Joey McGuire of Texas Tech. And you've seen them interact before huge games and at other Big 12 functions. And it's like, man, that's the dude you got to beat. Like, why are you buddying up to that guy? And that's just Kalani, and that's how he is. And, in spending time out there in April, we talked about that. And it traced back to Lavelle Edwards and how he is this way in part because of who he is and how he's wired, but also because of his coach and how Lavelle Edwards was with his peers as the longtime coach at BYU. And after everything that happened, Kalani almost leaving and then, coming back, and we talked about the legacy that he wants to continue to build there, and obviously have these friendships with coaches and not make it bitter, at least before games start and end. But also ultimately chase what Lavelle Edwards accomplished, which is elevating BYU back into the national conversation. And they've been right there, with 23 wins the last 2 years, of the only team that's won that many games that hasn't made the college football playoff. So that's where BYU is. And so it's a lot about the legacy that he wants to leave and his connections to Lavelle Edwards. But yeah, you just won't find a more popular coach, especially in his own conference, than Kalani is at BYU.
This might be a dumb question, but why is that so rare in college football? Like, I mean, I get it. There's 135 different personalities and things like that, but he is an outlier. And I'm glad that you mentioned Lavelle's impact on the way Kalani is, because I think that's an important part, at least, of the history of football in our state. But, it seems like other guys could afford to be more this way, and there's a lot of standoffishness and caginess and things like that. Not that college coaches aren't nice or cool or whatever, but, I mean, why is he such an outlier?
Well, I will say this. I think there's more chumminess than people recognize. The SEC coaches have talked about this a little bit. Kirby Smart, he talked about the text chain that they all are on. And I think there is more of that than that maybe comes out publicly. But a lot of it is the fact that, you know, you have these fan bases that they represent that don't want to see them interacting nicely with a rival. And there's so much more that's on camera now. There's social media. And, hey, I saw so-and-so, you know, down here, and they're playing golf together. What's going on? And I think more coaches would, and they do get along, you know, better behind the scenes. We just don't see it. I think with Kalani, his point to me was, listen, I can't hide that. Like that, his line about the fan of me comes out. Before I played at BYU, before I played for Lavelle, I was a football fan, and I'm not going to suppress that when I'm around other coaches. And I do think it points to Kalani knowing who he is and not trying to change that because of his position and because of the money and because of the attention. I think some coaches have to suppress that or have a hard time, kind of showing who they are with their peers in public because they're worried about how it's going to look to a fan base. I don't think Kalani cares about that, and I think that's something that certainly is great. And I will say this, I think there's a better vibe among the current Big 12 coaches than maybe any group in the country. There's a pretty good one at ACC. I was at ACC Media Days. I won't say the coaches, but we were out one night having some beers with two coaches that obviously have to play each other now and then in that league, and they're friends. And that is the case more often than maybe the public realizes, but I think Kalani takes it to another level at BYU.
The timing of when your article, your feel-good article about Kalani Sitake came out was very interesting here locally because of the storyline that maybe there's a bit of a feud internally developing between Kalani and Brian Santiago, who is the athletic director at the University of Utah. And I want to be fair to both parties and say that neither of them have characterized it that way, but that is the perception, that maybe there's some tension on unfulfilled promises and things like that. And then, we're getting local stories about that, and then ESPN article drops about how everyone in the world can get along with Kalani Sitake. Everyone loves Kalani Sitake. And if you're in the Santiago camp, you're probably just like, oh, give me a break. We get it. He's universally loved. What is your perception of that dynamic and that relationship and what you know about, the brewing subplot at BYU?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I full transparency, I did my reporting in April, so I wasn't on the ground as much leading up to what happened there and obviously the story running, but was following it. And, when I was there, not that everything is perfect all the time, but it certainly seemed like things were on a good trajectory. But I'll say this, in talking to both Kalani and Brian, they both kind of gave their visions for what, the next steps were. And it wasn't just about like, oh, we need more money to make this work. It's having people in certain areas. It's elevating and beefing up the depth in certain departments. It's, Kalani, told me flat out, it's like, if it was completely about the money, I'd be at Penn State. So it's interesting that this has come out and, what was agreed upon, what was put into writing, what hasn't been delivered yet. Clearly there's tension there. I think his answers about both the resources and his relationship with Brian are telling that things aren't all great. Doesn't mean it can't be repaired, but it's something to watch, OC, because you know as just as I do, if Kalani continues to win, and I think he's going to, Penn State will not be the last team that wants to hire him as a head coach. Other teams are going to keep coming after him, and he's going to have to keep telling them no if he feels good about things at BYU. And if he doesn't, he probably will walk out the door one day, which would certainly be a real blow for BYU because of his success and what he means to the program. So it's an important time, just as it was last, around December 1st when everything was seemingly going down with Penn State. It's an important time to get things right from a alignment standpoint, which doesn't seem to be the case right now.
Yeah, we were this close in Utah to having changing of the guard at the University of Utah after 21 years, changing of the guard at BYU after a decade. I mean, that would have been even wilder than the offseason already was. Swinging the focus back to our flagship partner, we're the home of the Utes here on ESPN 700. Morgan Scalley taking over. He was the acting head coach for the bowl game, so he's 1-0 as the head coach so far. But this was his first spring ball and his first offseason program, and now we're in the middle of his first full fall camp as a national viewpoint, as someone who covers every conference and the game all across the nation, what are your expectations for Morgan Scalley's Utah football program?
Well, on that same trip, I spent time with Morgan and Utah, and we talked a lot about, again, there's only one step to take now, and that's to make the playoff. And so it's not to go the other way. And that's certainly his hope and his expectation and the type of program he's trying to build. And it'll be really interesting to see if they can do it, right? Especially in this first year, because they still have some really good players left over. Obviously, Devin Dampier at quarterback. They've got their running back coming back. They've got, always some solid players on the defensive side that I was able to watch practice and visit with. But that next step is really difficult, especially amid a transition, even from somebody who obviously like Kyle to his protege and Morgan, who everybody knows and has a lot of respect for them. So I'm really interested to see how it goes down this year, because they're not being talked about, like BYU and Texas Tech and some of the other contenders in the Big 12. But Utah has shown that they should be in that conversation. And, if things go right, stay healthy, offensive line, obviously a big question mark going into the year with so many new players. But if that group is strong and they can build off of the success last year with Dampier, I think that they can, be one of those other contending teams in the Big 12. But I think the big picture for Morgan is, how do I take this program one step further to make it a playoff team? Because that's really the only thing Utah hasn't accomplished.
How many other teams are flirting seriously or are moving forward with private equity partnerships in their athletic department? And, of course, every athletic department centers mostly around football. Obviously, Utah took this step last year. We got the announcement at the end of the year, I should say last year, and it's fully ratified, and now Crimson Brand Partners is an actual functioning body. It's a real thing. How many other programs around the country are taking these steps?
Well, I think there's certainly efforts being put into exploring whether it's right. Every school is different, as you know, especially public schools have to decide if they want to go down that road. But, everyone in the country is looking for money because of what it costs to put together these football rosters and basketball rosters and to keep coaches and hire new coaches. So it's definitely, an option for, the Big Ten, nearly went through with it last year, had a couple of holdouts in Michigan and USC, and that's kind of been put on hold for now as a league-wide private equity approach, but it's certainly something that athletic directors and university presidents are considering.
Adam Rettenberg for another couple of minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things Utah football, touched on some BYU football. This Big 12 conference on a national landscape, it's funny because this is like publication season. This is when you get preseason watch lists and when you get these are the top 100 players in college football or the top 150 or these are the 40 most important transfers and things like that. And the Big 12 in every one of these lists and compiled sort of thought processes is woefully underrepresented, in my opinion, or they're completely absent until you get down to the mid-range of elite players. And I'm not saying that it's incorrect, because obviously the big money is being spent elsewhere and big-time players are following the big money right now. How much a problem do you think that is for the Big 12 as the season starts to play out in just a couple of weeks?
Well, yeah, I think there's, you look at who's coming back in the conference, and there's a lot of new quarterbacks, and they've had some good players transfer out to other teams, especially in the Big Ten and the SEC. But there's still a lot of talent in this league. I think it's just a matter of figuring out, for years the Big 12's identity was offense and exciting tempo-based, high-scoring games. That's shifted a bit. There's still teams that will put up points, but it's much more of a balanced league, a league that plays defense, and obviously has to recruit and develop at a high level, and ultimately, keep good players. I think that was one of the stories in talking to both the BYU folks in particular, but also Utah. Like, how do you keep these guys? The guys that you identified and you developed, into desirable players. And both those schools were able to do that. And I think that's important to watch. Texas Tech has been really good in the portal the last few years. Oklahoma State, I'm very interested to see what Eric Morris can do there, bringing in the group that he did from North Texas. I think TCU's kind of a sneaky good team. Houston quietly won 10 games last year. So there's quite a lot of depth at the top of the Big 12, but it's something that they have to be cognizant of is do we have the top end talent at quarterback? Are we keeping the best players in this conference? Or and then financially, are we able to keep up as much as we can with leagues that just have a lot more resources than we do?
Speaking of resources, the arms race has escalated rapidly. It seems like it was only months ago that Kyle Whittingham was warning, saying, hey, if there's no safeguards put in place, we're going to be talking about $40 and $50 million rosters. And then $40 and $50 million rosters, $40 million rosters being reported around college football for the top of the top. Obviously, there are, certain mechanisms put in place, or they're attempting to put certain mechanisms in place, government intervention being asked for to try to put a cap, like a real hard cap on things. Where are we with the Protect College Sports Act and some of these other measures that might slow down the arms race that so many teams, especially in the Big 12, are having a hard time keeping up with?
I think it just depends on what happens when this recess ends and where that act falls in the priority list. I would think that the first 15 to 30 days after the session resumes are really important, because the closer that we get to midterm elections, there's just a lot more things going on, a lot more priorities outside of college athletics that those lawmakers are dealing with. So, it's a pretty critical time, or if that bill is even going to happen. I think back to what Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, said at Media Days last month here in Chicago, which was, hey, if it doesn't work, we've got to work together as conferences to try to come up with something, or start figuring out, do we make our own rules? In the Big Ten and the SEC doesn't mean we won't play each other, but given the amount of time and effort and money that's been put in to this bill, it would be a big disappointment if they can't have anything go to a vote here, relatively soon after session resumes.
I know that these thoughts change and evolve as we get to see more of the football product, but based on the knowledge we have in the preseason, how many national championship contenders are there in college football this year?
I think the number probably ends around 8 or 9, which is certainly better than it used to be. I look at in the Big Ten, you've got 3. You've got Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana. I think Notre Dame is absolutely a national championship contender. I think Miami is a national championship contender. In the Big 12, we'll see. Right now, with Texas Tech, having a quarterback that they like, but certainly wasn't their preferred option going into the season after last year, can't be written off. But a team that has some curiosity, in my view. I think BYU's right there. And then ACC wise, beyond Miami, is it Louisville? Is it SMU? Is there a surprise team or two? SEC wise, I think Georgia and Texas are the teams that you start off with. But I'm really interested to see how good Ole Miss can be coming off of the year that it had, with arguably the best backfield in the country in Trinidad Chambliss and Kejuan Lacey, and then you obviously Lane at LSU, and then some of the playoff teams that returned last year but have some question marks in at Texas A&M, Alabama, Oklahoma, all teams that could get to the playoff. But if they want to really contend nationally, they're going to have to address some areas, especially Alabama and Oklahoma, from a run game standpoint. So I think it's probably 7, 8 teams, maybe 9 that are in that conversation. But we didn't see Indiana coming a couple of years ago, so there could be some real surprises as well.
That is true. Adam, continue to keep up the great work. We appreciate everything you write. It gives me a ton of material for my show, and especially for jumping on today. Thank you.
You bet, man. Thanks for having me.
Adam Rittenberg, National College Football Insider over at ESPN. Read everything he writes on ESPN.com. He is one of the best in the business. And even if you're not a BYU fan, it is worth your time to read the recent piece he put out on Kalani Sitake, who is as popular, as beloved as any coach in the business, not only by his own players or his own fans or his own university, but by the overall national college football community. People love them some Kalani Sitake because he's authentic and he's himself and he's exactly how he's supposed to be and doesn't filter it for the cameras or anything else. All right, we've got a jam-packed daily dump. And if you have anywhere from $300 to $1,600, you can have a special experience at a BYU football game. I'll tell you about it next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Time for the Daily Dump. Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling can handle all of your plumbing, heating, and cooling needs, from the little stuff, drain cleaning, helping you install a faucet. I've got a shower head changeover I need to figure out right now. Maybe you need a new sewer line. You need a new main water line. Excavation plumbing, they've got that covered as well. Same is true with the HVAC. Go to valleyplumbing.com and make an appointment. You don't even have to pick up the phone. They'll get out there quickly. They'll do it affordably. They'll help you out.
Oh,
All
see,
right.
I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only grown man that is a little bit daunted by a simple change of shower head. Well, I have no expertise on changing anything like that, so I feel seen by your little side comment there.
We got a little situation right now where they have like the shower heads that are regular shower heads, and then they have the one that's a shower head, and then it's got like this kind of rail attached, and it goes down and attaches into the tile lower down.
Oh yeah.
And on that rail you have a handheld spraying device.
Yeah, the wand. The shower wand, right?
Yeah. So my wife got one of those and is like, put this in. I'm like, I will eventually.
I will call a professional to put it
We'll
in.
figure it out.
Shout out to Valley Plumbing.
It's something I know how to I know I can do, but it's like it's going to take me longer than I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's annoying. So anyway, Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling for all of that stuff.
Why waste time on YouTube when you can just have Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling?
That's right.
For you.
James, have you had the pleasure of doing a pregame meal or press meal in the Lavelle Edwards Stadium press box?
I have not, but not specifically in that press box, but I have had plenty of meal in the press area,
Okay.
if not a press box.
Okay,
Yes.
so I got to give credit where it's due. If there is a better pregame press meal than the one at Lavelle Edwards Stadium at BYU, I would be shocked and amazed.
Is it always great food?
It's great food. It's Tucanos.
Is it always Tucanos?
It's always Tucanos.
Oh, okay.
Every time I've been there, it's been Tucanos.
I knew that was the fan experience that you're building up to is Tucanos.
It's
I didn't know that was
every
what
time
they
I've
fed
been
the
there, it's
media
been
too.
Tucanos. If they
All
do
right.
anything else ever, I don't know.
Yeah.
But every time I've been to a game there, it's Tucanos, and it's good.
Well,
it's
yeah,
excellent.
That's like
It's really good food.
really high quality media food. Absolutely.
It's excellent food, right? And by the way, there's a sliding scale. Some places it's great, some places it's not so great. We are lucky here in the state of Utah with our press meals. Rice-Eccles Stadium does a good job. The Delta Center for Mammoth or for Jazz, incredible food options. Down at BYU for the BYU football games in that press box, it's churrasco, man. It's as good as it gets. Now, there's a limit to what I am willing to sacrifice for the enjoyment even of a Tucanos meal, which is where this fan experience being offered by BYU Athletics right now comes in and is in the Daily Dump for a hilarious reason. I haven't been to Rodizio lately. I haven't been to Tucanos lately. I haven't been to Tejas de Brazil lately. But, the full all-you-can-eat churrascaria, that's a hefty meal. That's a heavy meal. I keep it on green the whole time. I'm getting the fried bananas. I'm getting the glazed pineapple.
You're getting meat sweats from that meal.
I'm
Absolutely.
leaving with meat sweats and a distended belly, very certainly.
But it's not. I'm glad you mentioned the grilled pineapple and the other fruit that they give you too.
Excellent.
It's not all meat, but it's a lot of meat. Yeah.
I'll pay $100 for that. What I will not pay is $802 for this experience. That is what BYU Athletics is asking right now for a press box pregame meal experience in the Notre Dame week. Fans can go right now to BYUCougars.com. You can click on the link for the press box pregame meal. Against Notre Dame, you can pay $802.15 to come sit next to me and James Peterson and have Tucanos beef and some feijoada and They don't have the grilled pineapple usually because that's a really hard thing to cater. It's got to be fresh.
Yeah, sure.
But
Bummer, though.
For the low price of $802, you can come sit with the cantankerous grumps.
Your favorite people in the world, the sports media.
The sports media.
Yeah.
Before the Notre Dame game.
So, hold on, though. Is that what this is? You get to, like, this is served while the media is eating the food, or is this before? Like, that's the thing I didn't quite understand. Is this the press box is empty before the press gets there, or is this like amongst the media members?
Yeah.
That's just okay. $800.
Enjoy
is
game
steep
day for one of
that.
the most exclusive locations in LaVell Edwards Stadium with the Press Box pregame meal experience. Beginning 90 minutes before kickoff, guests will be welcomed into the press box to enjoy a delicious pregame meal from Tucanos while taking in the spectacular views of the field below. Surrounded by game day personnel and the excitements leading up to kickoff, you will get a unique behind-the-scenes perspective of the operations that bring a BYU football game to life. Relax, dine, and watch the stadium come alive as the anticipation builds for another unforgettable Cougar game day.
It's funny. They didn't say anything about also they're saying the game day operations crew. They didn't say anything about, on 3 BYU blogger and Sean O'Connell radio host and some of the other
this is
media.
Now,
interesting.
Look, would this be a fun experience for a random BYU fan or a group of BYU fans, or maybe you have like a high school BYU fan who wants to be the play-by-play voice someday, wants to be a writer someday? Absolutely, this is cool. For $802?
It's per person, right?
Yes. Whoever put the prices on these fan experiences, and there's dozens of them available. Okay, front row access to the Cougar Walk. So the Cougar Walk is free, all right? You line up in the tailgate area at LaVell Edwards Stadium. What do they call it? Graham Canyon. What do they call that? Cougar Canyon?
I think it might be Cougar Canyon. 877-353-0700.
Canyon of Victory or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like, it's a good little game day setup, right? The team walks through.
Yeah.
And people line up. The kids reach out. The players give them high five. You can now pay for access to front row. So they are selling the ability for you to be the first ones when the players get off the bus and to be front row, so the players kind of have to give you high five. They're selling that. I'm using Notre Dame because Notre Dame is the big ticket item on all these. For $322, you can stand closer to the bus than all the people doing it for free.
Hold on a second, though. You said this is free, Cougar Walk. They also have somewhere else on here where it's just join the Cougar Walk. It's not front row Cougar Walk. So is that not free anymore? Is that what you're saying?
No. I think join the Cougar Walk
comes with your game ticket or something.
Experience game day like a BYU football player with the exclusive opportunity to join the Cougar Walk. So you get to walk
with the players,
like behind the players,
not lined up like on a parade route. Gotcha. That's still free.
Guess how much that's going to cost you during Notre Dame week?
I have Utah Tech pulled up because that's a bigger game. Everyone knows.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say, based on the Utah Tech price I'm seeing, I'm going to say $600.
It's $802.
Oh, my gosh.
That's to walk behind the team after, pregame on-field photo shoot, which has been happening for the VIPs, for my cousin knows a coach. Like, this is the stuff, like, you're a high school recruit that's
You're a donor, whatever.
You're a donor, whatever. These have been happening for years and years and years. Pre-game on-field photo shoot. Again, Notre Dame week, $482 per person. Pre-game sideline experience. Notre Dame week. That's the expensive one. $1,602.45. Here's what you get. Watch team warm-ups from the sidelines and finish with an exclusive on-field 50-yard line photo before the game begins. Again, this is awesome. If you're a BYU football fan, if you're a Utah football fan, if you're a Notre Dame football fan, to be on the field on game day as the stadium's filling up, waking up, to see the warm-ups, to get close to it, It is really, really cool. It is a privilege that is never lost on me. I've been doing this for years and years and years now. It is wonderful to get that perspective. It truly is. I'm not making fun of anyone who wants to do this. I am making fun of whoever set the prices for this. Absolutely try to capitalize on this. Make a little bit of money with this, like you've been doing for years. You've been encouraging donors. Hey, can you give us, 10 grand to endow a scholarship? Can you give us 50 grand? You can bring your whole dang family down, and they've been getting to do this for a long time. Now they're just trying to sell it to the average fan. $1,600 a person to walk on the sideline for 15 minutes?
Well, the game isn't even happening. I will say this. There's the third quarter break sideline access. That's the other sideline access that you have. You have a pregame one and then one between the third and fourth quarters. I will say that those are the things that I think are what I would pay the most for, is to be on the field when somewhat meaningful stuff is happening. The pregame one comes with that photo of you on the field. I'm with you in the price is still way too high, but at least that's something that goes, oh, yeah, that is probably a premium price. I can believe that.
Okay, this one, I'll finish with this. Again, I am making fun of the prices, not the fact that you are trying to monetize this, BYU.
And not the experience either. All of these are cool. Sure.
Notre Dame week. You can have an in-seat visit from Cosmo, who is, let's be honest, he is among the 5 most legendary college mascots in the game right now. Cosmo is really good.
He is, if he was a pro team mascot, he'd be considered one of the best mascots in the country, probably.
If we're being honest, Cosmo, whoever's in that Cosmo suit year after year after year at BYU, is more athletic than 50% of the football team. Cosmo, the people in the Cosmo suit, the breakdancing and the push-ups, like the high-volume push-ups where they climb a ladder of tables doing the push-ups, like there's a serious athlete in this costume every single year, right? If you're Kalani Sitake, you should do one game where Cosmo pulls the hat off, puts a helmet on, and suits up and plays, because that person is a great athlete. Let him run down on kickoff or something. A seat visit from Cosmo for the Notre Dame game, meaning you receive a special game day visit from Cosmo for photos, high fives, and unforgettable fun at your seats, which, of course, is the same thing that mascots do in every arena and every stadium organically throughout the course of a season at every single game.
Is unforgettable fun a competitor to Silly String? I've never heard of that brand. Is that what that is?
Look, if Cosmo is going to – if for the price that they are asking for the Notre Dame game, I want Cosmo to bring me his actual cougar tail. Okay?
And he's got to take off his headwear there. I've got to know who Cosmo is for that price.
How much do you think it costs to have Cosmo the Cougar come and pay an impromptu visit to you in your seats that, by the way, you have to pay for, not included in any of these ticket prices, these experience prices? Your game tickets are not included. So you have to have a ticket to the game, and on top of that, you have to pay for the fan experiences. How much do you think it costs to have Cosmo show up at your seat? Which, by the way, you pay for, and then the 17 people around you also get the same thing for free, which is great. But how much do you think it costs, James?
Well, that's when you say, okay, you guys this isn't a free ride. You guys all got to Venmo me a few bucks here to help with the price.
Give me some cash.
No, I'll tell you, I would pay $0. But if you're telling me that I had to pay and I really wanted this, right, or my kids really wanted this, I would pay like $10.
Okay. How much do you think they are asking?
They're asking for way more than that.
Notre Dame week.
I don't actually believe this, but like it's probably the 802 that they're charging so many other things.
Wouldn't that be nice, James? Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Oh my gosh, it's more than that?
$3,203.
Seriously, would you pay, like, if you had to pay? You're like me. You're even more frugal than I am. I know you would pay $0 for this, but if you had to pay something, wouldn't $10 be what you're like, okay, that's what I would expect. Cosmo coming over and giving me a high five.
I, like most people, I am the victim of my own poor parenting to where, like, I would pay $0 for this.
Yeah.
I would make Cosmo pay me for the picture. However, my daughters would love a picture with Cosmo.
Sure.
Right? And so if they were like, Dad, please, 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 and I had to fork out a tenner to get them in a picture with
That'd
Cosmo.
be painful for you.
I would hate it.
Yeah.
But I would do it because I'm a bad dad who can't say no to their kids. Right? If somebody came to me with a straight face and said, for the low, low price of $3,200, Cosmo will come sit with your kids at the game
for 5 minutes or whatever
I would vomit on their shoes. That is this can't be real. But I'm at the BYU website. I'm finding these things directly from a BYU source. This is absolute absurdity.
I hope no one, especially that one, the Cosmo visit, that's just way too much.
And by the way,
you shouldn't be charging at all, and that's way too much if you're going to be charging. I hope that no one buys this.
By the way, don't get any ideas.
No.
Any team, anywhere.
Jazz Bears going to start charging for putting silly string and throwing throwing opposing teams' fans backwards hat off their head. Like, come on now.
If Tusky comes up to me at a game when I'm there as a fan,
you're running away.
And poses for a picture, and then somebody comes up to me and is like, okay, scan the QR code, you owe us $100 or something, I'm going to get arrested. This is what I know that it's always cool to like try to find alternate revenue streams. This ain't it, BYU.
I think just like we talked about in the Daily Dump, what was that, 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, we talked about The Rock trying to encourage and incentivize students to go to sports that aren't football and men's basketball, right? Poorly executed, great idea. I would put this in the same category. Great idea. This is so poorly executed, and I think it's a reflection, OC, unfortunately, of college athletic departments, colleges in general, for the first time having to monetize a lot of things. And just, it's an exposure of like so many that seem to have no idea what value things actually have. And it's embarrassing, quite frankly, because these are supposed to be the smartest people in the country working for these colleges, and yet you charge $3,200 for the mascot to come give a high five and take a picture with you. It's ridiculous.
So for $4,000, you can go have a press meal next to me and then have Cosmo visit you.
Save your money, folks. Save your money. Even though some of these incredible experiences, don't pay them. Send a message that say, hey, you got to lower these freaking prices. These are not worth what you're saying they're worth.
I'm on the Tucano's Brazilian Grill website right now, where you can spend $802 to eat this meal in the press box at BYU during the Notre Dame game, or before the Notre Dame game, I should say.
People like you and I get for free.
Don't, James. You're tempting fate.
You're
if
right.
they're charging their fans $802, you think they're still going to give it to us for free?
Just bring a sandwich to the game, OC. You'll be fine.
You can have a large churrasco meal from Tucano's, like this is them catering for you, for $25. Or you can wait in line for the elevator that takes you to the press box and eat it next to me for $802 a person.
I mean, you're the draw. Let's be honest there. You should get some of this $802 a person, OC.
Okay, we got to take a break here. Do we have another leaderboard update, James? Do we need to do that?
We do, but we can do that after Devin at 1, baby. Dishing with Dev.
Our first Dishing with Dev of the year is happening today in just a few minutes. Oh, before we finish up the Daily Dump, this will be the last thing we talk about in the Daily Dump. OG Anunoby, Knicks champion, has lost all the cool points he gained by being one of the most important players in that championship series for the Knicks. OG Anunoby right now is the subject of multiple television and radio commercials as an exclusive Skechers footwear athlete. He's an NBA player. He's an NBA star. Can we say he's an NBA star? Not superstar, but he's an NBA star. He's a champion.
He's a high-level role player who is, he's a high-level role player.
He's the third best player on that team?
Should we call
championship team?
By the way, soccer has like hand of God, goal type epic nicknames for incredible moments. Should we call OG's tip in the finger of God? Is that what we should call this?
I don't think so. I don't think we're going to call it that. One of the radio commercials.
That lightning just came down.
One of the radio commercials, by the way, advertises these new Skechers running shoes that OG Anunoby is spokesperson for, and they're like, you can get these Skechers shoes for only $160. Here's the thing. I'm willing to bet that if you go down and you find one of the people who pays for a Meet Cosmo and have a press box meal, they're probably going to be wearing these OG Anunoby Skechers. Anyone who's willing to pay $160 for a pair of Skechers shoes needs to be criminally profiled. What are we doing?
By the way, congrats to Skechers for getting a zero-time All-Star as your biggest athlete. That's all due respect to OG Anunoby. If that's your highest profile athlete,
they have Tony Romo, they have Howie Long, and they have OG Anunoby.
Okay, NBA though, you're like that's you expect someone higher profile than OG to be your highest profile athlete.
Can I also say something that I'm this is delicate, but I'm being serious.
Finger on the dump button.
Has anyone out there ever seen an African-American person wearing Skechers? Besides OG Anunoby in the commercial.
877-353-0700.
I don't think it's ever happened before.
You've seen it, or if you know firsthand.
You know what? Maybe we could ask Devin Dampier. Okay, I'm gonna ask Devin Dampier if he's ever seen a black guy wearing Skechers before that commercial. I probably won't actually ask him that. Dish it with Dev for the first time this season. Next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. We are 2 weeks away from the University of Utah kicking off their football season on a Thursday night at Rice-Eccles Stadium against Idaho. And with football season being so close, it is that time of year again to be dishing with Dev. Devin Dampier, the starting quarterback at the University of Utah, will be a weekly guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Conversations and Dishing with Dev brought to you by America First Credit Union, Culligan Water, Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, the truck with the duck. And QB1 joins us now, Dishing with Dev. Devin Dampier, how are you, sir?
Man, enjoying life as much as possible. How you doing?
I like that you said enjoying life as much as possible because you are in the thick of football camp right now. And even if it's not as crazy as the old 2 and 3 a days of my era in college football, it is work, man. And you guys are right in the middle of it. Camp, and then install, I believe, starts next week. How you feeling right now? How's the body? I know the voice is starting to fail you a little bit, but tell me how you're feeling at this moment.
Yeah, honestly, I'm at a proud moment of our team. I guess I could say I saw a lot of chemistry being built. Like, I feel like our offense and our defense, like, this is the closest I've seen it where, in the locker room, you see offensive people hanging out with defensive players more than, their own side of the ball, just because of how close we are, just because of how open we are to each other. So it's just glad to see that, we're coming together more than just on the football field.
To what do you attribute that increased chemistry? Is it just guys' personalities gelling a little bit better? Is it something the coaching staff is doing? What would you give credit to for the fact that this team seems so close right now?
Yeah, I think it all starts with Scally. Scally being a head coach now, I think he puts very equal effort into both of us on the offensive side and the defensive side. So just seeing that, the time he takes on both sides of the ball, and then the way our lunches and all our eating schedules and just stuff like that, the way it's structured is for us to be able to be together. It's not where offense is doing one thing, defense is doing the other. We make time for all of us to come together and have that opportunity to just be around each other outside of, talking football. So I think just the way Scally has it, the foundation of this making friends and making this more than just football, brotherhood, and all that.
This time of camp is usually when nerves start to get a little bit raw. A fight or two might break out. And team chemistry can survive a couple of, pushes and shoves and bad words and maybe even a punch or two thrown. But has it been typically kind of competitive and spicy on that front in camp?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, when you talk about the mentality of the offensive line and the mentality of the defensive line, and, I mean, you guys know what Scally's about. He's about straight physical. He wants the mind where, you want to win every rep, not sparing nobody. So, now that he's a head coach and he's pushing that on the offensive line as well, man, there's great competition going on. And, just going against the same person for so long, he can get the best of you at times. But, nothing too crazy. I think, if anything, they're getting better. They're recognizing each other's games and just making each other better at the end of the day.
You're probably sick of answering questions about your offensive line for now, but I'm going to give you a couple anyway because it is one of the big storylines of this football season, right? You got to replace 5 starters. And I'll start at the beginning of this conversation for myself at least. Like, you are an intelligent person. You had options in the transfer portal, as has been well publicized and you've talked about. And one of the things that would be a major selling point for any quarterback is we've got this many returning starters. You had 0 returning starters, and you still decided, you know what, I'm going to come back. I'm going to ride with this team. Obviously knowing some of these guys already that were projected to probably step into those roles on the offensive line. But going back to making that decision with that information, tell me why that didn't shake your confidence that Utah was going to continue to be the right place for you.
Yeah, just talking about the O-line, I mean, even last year going into camp, there was days where, that starting 5, some of them were a little banged up, decided not to practice. And, the guys that started now, one of them had to step up. So just I have been behind them before. I have been able to practice with them even before just this year. So just knowing what we had, being able to step up and start this year, man, I had confidence in the O-line. I mean, there's nothing that's telling me that, again, if I didn't have confidence, I wouldn't be here because, that's huge for a quarterback to be able to trust his O-line. And, I trust those guys on my heart.
Coach Scally won't tell us who the starting five are, won't tell us even if he has a solid starting five. We try to get that info out of Coach Gross, and they're playing it all close to the vest. You don't have to name any names for me, Dev. If I said, joke's on you, season starts on Saturday, do you know who your starting five will be?
I do not.
But you don't have to tell me who they are, but do you feel like, I know who they are?
I seriously, I think there's so many different ways that, when you pick your starting five, you pick it around, for one, the chemistry between, the center and the guards, and then you want the guards and the tackles to be on the same page. So, we're still at that point where we're trying to gel and just figure out what builds the best chemistry between those five guys. So,
right.
We're playing around, we're moving guys around.
But you have trust in the overall group. Is that safe to say?
Yes, for sure. For sure.
What about the defensive line? Because obviously, right, that's another place where some question marks exist. Do you feel like going against the defensive front, another quarterback is going to have a hard time with that once we get into the real season? Yeah,
the pressure is real. I think that starts with Swan, just the way Swan calls his defense, and again, the way he's carried on Scally's tradition of, those guys being physical. They want to go get the quarterback every single time. So, I've been seeing it, and, I talk with them after every practice just about some of the crazy stuff they're able to do up there to cause pressure and things like that. So, yeah, again, this is one of those camps where, again, I'm seeing both sides improving, while I'm back there.
Devin Dampier, Utah starting quarterback, our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Dishing with Dev, brought to you by America First Credit Union, Culligan Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Coach Swan, I've known him for a long time. He was a defensive coach at Weber State when I transferred to Weber State. I'm very happy that he gets this opportunity to be a D coordinator at this level. I know talking to him that this camp, he likes the fact that he's got an experienced quarterback on the opposite side of things. He can throw things at you that in camp, in practice scenarios that he wouldn't be able to and still have a good practice if it was like, a ranked freshman. So what is that chess match like between you, Mac G, and him?
Yeah, I'd say it's very fun. It's very fun is the word I use. Because, man, I guess, one, I got that great relationship with Mac G. I think everybody knows that. Just quarterback OC, I love that guy. And then just to be able to bring, a DC into the quarterback's life, for the relationship that I have with Coach Swan, man, it's so deep. Like, man, I talk to him anytime I want to. He's talking to me right before practice. He's telling me I'm going to try to make today hard for you. Just small things like that we're both trying to make each other better. And, I'm glad that I'm able to, allow him to experience, having a good quarterback back there so he knows what he likes to do, what he doesn't like to do, and stuff like that.
What's going to be the biggest difference in Devin Dampier's game in the 2026 season?
I won't get hawked down during Kansas State. How about that? Oh, man. I think my elusiveness will be, where I'd wanted to play at. I thought UCLA was, probably one of the healthiest games I had. And also Nebraska, just being able to do what I want to do on the field, not being scared of, someone diving at me or hitting me. Just being able to be out there with a clear mind. I think that's the place I'm going to be able to have going into this year.
I know that we have talked about it already, but I feel like it is important enough that it bears repeating. we had weekly conversations last year, and you never once made an excuse with health. None of us found out until after the season was over and you go in for double hernia surgery, really how bad things were. And I know that that wasn't the only problem that you had, the ankle and other things, whatever. But then, the way that you are moving, now we can see you're moving. I think your family has been quoted like maybe we saw him 70, 75% last year. You never use that as an excuse, but is it safe to say that Utah football fans should expect a different level, at least a different physical version of Devin Dampier heading into this year?
Yes, for sure. I think, and by like game-to-game basis, I think certain games I played different than I normally do just because of, my health, where it was at. And, just to be able to get a consistent quarterback every single game, regardless of what it is, that's what I want to give out there is I'm the same guy every single game and just being able to play that way.
How many times are we going to see you and Bird Ficklin on the field at the same time, Dev?
Yeah, Bird's the playmaker. We're going to find a way to get him on the field. So you ain't even got to worry about it.
The playmaker conversation is one that's kind of permeated through the entire offseason. I like to go through before the season starts all these predictive things, hit, touchdown totals, yardage totals for certain players, who's the leading receiver going to be, what's that production going to be like. And every football guy we talk to says the same thing. Hey, there's only one ball, and you're going to have to figure out how you distribute this thing. What does that look like at practice? I know it's not the same as game planning, but what does it look like right now at practice? Are we spreading this peanut butter even and thin? Is there a couple of guys that are getting the bulk of the shares, the bulk of the carries, bulk of the touches? How's it working out so far?
Yeah, starting off, Wayshawn, he's that guy when it comes to running the ball. He's shown just so much growth and leadership in who he is as a person. Even our head coach, strength staff, he said that he's never seen running backs work this hard, and he's been in the NFL level and all that. So I think Wayshawn's doing a great job of bringing, especially Daniel Bray. He's bringing Daniel Bray a long way. He was a young guy last year, just a freshman getting out there, and you can see that growth in his mindset as well. I see him in the training room just trying to make sure that his legs don't get dead during fall camp. That's things you don't normally see from young guys. So I think Wayshawn's doing a great job pushing over there. And then, man, receiver-wise, dude, I'm so happy that, I'm able to go through progressions. I'm able to choose, what side I want to work just because, I know those sides have that capability of getting open to any coverage. So it's just nice to know whatever the defense decides to do, I can pick their poison. I can go the other way. You got to worry about all the receivers out there.
What about the tight ends? There's always the question about, how the big pass receiving options are going to fit into this. And you guys have the traditional kind of tight end. You have these hybrid sort of, he's halfway running back, halfway receiver, halfway tight end. You got the Rhino package. What are the big weapons going to look like in this offense?
Yeah, there's so much versatility there. Again, we have guys that we can put in the backfield and hand them the ball, and they're going to find a way to get yards every time. I like to call that group the secured catchers. You know what I mean? If I need somebody to catch the ball, I'm going to the tight end because, man, they're so big body, they're so athletic at their sizes, and just with that to have great hands as well. That builds so much trust in the quarterback to just know you can always go there.
Who on the opposite side of the ball has been have you developed kind of the friendly rivalry with? Who's been the one chirping most at you? I think last year you told us you and Lander Barton were always talking back and forth at practices and things like that. Who's that guy this year?
I will say it's three of them this year. Me and Jono definitely go at it all the time. We had a pre-camp little bet going on. I was just talking about him getting an interception on me because, man, Jono's a lurker. He knows how to go out there and play that linebacker position. And second, Benny Jackson's going into another year where we're all expecting him to be that guy, and he's proven it every single day. And he asks me questions. Why do I choose to throw the ball a certain way against certain coverage? What am I seeing when he's guarding people? So we just have those conversations where we're getting better. And Scooby Davis, Scooby's actually the talker out of all of them. Scoob lets me know before every period, hey, Dev, you know what time it is? I'm getting one today. Scoob's always there to continue to motivate, and just that's what uplifts the competition every day at practice is when guys bring energy, and Scooby's all about that.
Who has picked you off so far in camp?
Oh, I can't give those names. not a lot, though. I would say that.
All right, it's fine. I'll get the names from a defensive player. They'll be the ones that'll let me know. From a team I should say team chemistry is too broad. From a chemistry with your receiver standpoint, right? I know that you were putting in a lot of work in the offseason. Your coaches have praised you for organizing the workouts and kind of taking the leadership perspective there. This is a new group, though. As talented as it is, there's a lot of fresh faces, new bodies, things like that. Do you feel like you've developed the right level of chemistry with your pass catchers?
Yeah. I mean, again, it started just when they first got here. I think everyone kind of knew what they were walking into. Scalley's first year, bringing in an OC that, McGivern he likes to win. And I guess the biggest thing about his offense is he likes to always make the defense wrong. Whatever the defense decides to do, we're going to find a way to pick it apart. So just we're bringing in the receivers, they knew from the beginning that we are expecting y'all to get open against, anything. We have these high expectations for you guys when you guys come here. We want to be able to pass the ball if that's what the defense thinks that we can't do, and just things like that. So I think the mentality of the receivers, this whole entire way, spring ball and off-season, summer, and now you can just tell the amount of conversations, the amount of times that, I go into their meetings, we're talking ball. There's just a lot of dedication on that side.
Devin Dampier for a couple more minutes here. Dishing with Dev, brought to you by America First Credit Union, Culligan Water, Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. So what's the schedule like the rest of the way? You guys, these are not install-friendly practices at this moment, right? There's no game planning happening for Idaho or Arkansas or anybody else at this moment. This is just like efficiency and working on your own stuff. Is that the right way to characterize it?
Yep. I'd say we're still, I guess it's kind of those last touches of, exactly what the offense wants to bring into the season, what plays that, we're going to let go of, and the plays we're going to hold on to, for the whole entire season because we feel confident in those plays. And same thing for the defense, what they feel like they do best, what type of pressures they don't like, what type of pressures they feel great about every single game. Just things like that. That's kind of what's being finalized this week. And, by next week, first opponents, first three opponents, we'll start dialing up plays to go against their defenses, and same thing on the other side.
Your mindset probably isn't even in this place, but a lot of us are going to be watching Utah football and saying, like, okay, how much different does it look under Morgan Scalley, the head coach, Kevin McGivern as the offensive coordinator, Colton Swan now as a defensive coordinator? We're going to be comparing to this kind of constant thing we've had over the last 21 years. From a practice perspective, if you compare this camp to last year's camp, how would you compare them? Are they equally physical? Is this year more live tackling, less live tackling? Is it more grinding people down? Like, give me some comparison, if you can, between what Morgan Scalley's fall camp is versus the one you had under Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah, man, Scalley's been under Witt so long, so the physical, all that does not change. I promise. It's the same. When the pads are on, if we're able to have contact, we're gonna have contact. We're gonna make sure guys are hitting each other and just making sure we're building that mindset. We will never lose a football game because we're softer than an opponent, and that's something Scalley preaches. And some differences. Scalley's big on our bodies, how our bodies are doing. He's taking a lot of account on just tracking how much miles per hour we're hitting, the amount of wear and tear we're putting on our bodies every practice, how long that's going for. And, he's adjusting practices as we go on just to continue to make sure we feel good by the time week 1 comes.
Do you know what your max speed number is so far?
What have I hit? I want to say I was like 19 something.
Okay. All right.
It's solid. It's solid. I think some of them other boys are flying though. I think Braden, Benny, and Ricky and Snuda, I think they've gotten to like the 22s, maybe the 20. Yeah, they're flying. They're flying. Dude. So, it's been fun though, just the whole entire process.
Do you enjoy that portion? Like, do you like looking at those numbers? Are you like, Bruce Feldman puts out his freaks list where he talks about like the measurables that people have. Now, some people are great players without ever having great measurables. Some guys are, kind of in the middle. Some guys rely so much on the measurables that they never actually get good at football. Where do you fall on the, like my speed numbers and how they translate to my game kind of thing? Like, cause you're a big lifter, right? You're really strong. You told us about that last year. So like,
yeah.
How much do you care about those numbers?
Yeah. Me at quarterback, I always want the combination of strong and, I guess who I want to be faster than is, anybody in the box. The receivers, the corners, the safeties, they're going to find their way to be faster than me. They're built 30 pounds lighter than me. But for me to be that mix of being able to take a hit and also outrun, the ends, the D tackles, the linebackers, that's kind of my goal. That's what I focus on from a measurable standpoint. But I just think my game is a lot of my quickness, my side-to-side movement, my vertical speed. My miles per hour doesn't really give me that movement speed, but things like the 5-10-5 and stuff, that's the things I take a lot into consideration just to make sure I'm able to change direction in the fastest way possible.
Are you playing heavier or lighter than you did last year? Or are you going to be the same?
I think I'm at the same, honestly. I think I'm being in like that 205, 210 category, just depending on the day, I'm somewhere between there. That's kind of where I played at last year.
Is that the magic number for you, you feel like? That's your optimal athletic performance number?
As for right now, yes. I feel like that's where I can get out and still take a hit.
Yeah, we don't we don't want a skinny Devin Dampier that can't survive a little bit of contact, Would you say that, and I don't know, maybe this is a conversation you have with Kevin McGibbon and Morgan Scalley, like, would you say that for yourself, because you were productive in the passing game and the run game last year, watching your film at New Mexico, there were plenty of times where you ran the ball when I think it was a designed pass because you kind of had to, right? And I know that's always going to be part of your game. That's always going to be part of a quarterback's game. But is there going to be an adjustment as far as in like the QB designed runs for Devin Dampier in order to preserve the health that you have worked so hard to get back?
Yeah, I think that's part of my play style, and I've told the coaches that me being able to put that stress on the defense is, that's huge for me. When you can make that safety start looking at the quarterback, and now that safety cannot help on the outside receivers, you just create matchups for your guys to be able to throw the ball as well. So, and that's something, defensive coaches, they stress about, having to worry about the quarterback running because, man, there's defenses where, they play man with two safeties and the safeties are running with the deep routes and, who accounts for the quarterback. So, I take that big. That's who I am. That's part of my game. And they know that as well. And, obviously, again, the way Sean and just the depth at the running back position as well, and even having Bird, that takes a lot of stress off of me when it comes to, direct run game where we got guys that are going to go get those yards.
You guys are practicing or finishing up practice right when we're going on air. So I'm not able to go observe practice, and it's limited for the media anyway. So I have to rely on you for the answer to this question. Last year at camp, right, we were going up there, hey, who's the breakout star of this camp? Who's the young freshman or the incoming transfer, whoever, that's surprising everyone? Who is that offensively? And maybe you've got a defensive one too.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me think. Let me pick up with this one. I would say, I believe Kelvin Obat's been, I think, very impressive. You get a 5-star, and some of those guys aren't the 5 stars you think you get. Some of them, they played against weaker competition, and they get here, and they get humbled, and they never really turn into that same guy. And I think Kelvin's one of those guys who, first day he gets the feel of what it's like to be a college athlete, and man, he's taking strides like so fast. He's definitely proving himself out there every single day that he can go out there and compete, at the highest level just right away as a young guy. So that's been hugely impressive to see out of a guy so young to be able to come here and do that so fast. And then on the defense, honestly, Cyrus and Ellis it's been that linebacker position is so deep. You have Jono and Trey, and then man, when Cyrus and Ellis is in there, it's they're like them boys. They can pass rush. They can go find a way to go get an interception. Like it's just we have so much depth at that linebacker position, and I think they've been standing out all camp. Just the way they've been playing at such a high level.
That's exactly what I was looking for, Dev. I love those answers. And I've been talking more about a freshman offensive guard in Kelvin Obat or an offensive lineman than I'm really even comfortable doing, because we're not even sure how much he's going to play this year. But let's say he has to, right? You think he could be a starting offensive lineman as a true freshman?
Oh yeah, for sure. He again, the stride, the amount that, and also he's getting better himself. He's doing the extra things. Like, again, me being around a 5-star, I didn't know how he was going to come into this thing, and he's coming into this thing like still hungry to know the game. He's doing the small things coaches is asking for, and just the extra. So I'm glad that he's on our team for sure.
This is an unfair question to finish it, but you know how I am. The guy, J.J. Buchanan and John Henry Daly and those guys, those individuals that were so important to last year's team, are they still in the group chat, or is everyone like, while the football season plays out, is there a separation?
No, and when if you ever look at our Instagram posts or things like that, you players are all up in their comments. They're still in ours. Every once in a while, like I see Scooby on the phone with Teo and Smitty, and it's a family. Once you're part of the Utah family, the way we love our brotherhood, the way we become so close with each other, we always have that respect for each other. We know everybody's situation is different, and we understand that, and everyone's doing what's best for them at the end of the day. But that chemistry that we built, that love, that year that we go through, just so much blood and tears. And, there's no way you can just let those type of guys fall out of your life.
Last thing, and I know you've talked about it a lot, but, it's something that I'm fascinated by. Utah fans are fascinated by. You made a tough decision, and you decided to stay here, even though the offensive coordinator that had brought you along in college football, he left, even though you were getting the offers from other places. I'm sure there were some big bags offered to you, things like that. What has happened so far through spring ball, through the summer program, and this far into camp? Do you feel like you're getting confirmation that you made the right decision on a daily basis?
Yeah. I think, again, I love Coach Beck. He's done so much for me, and, he had a decision to make for what's best for him and his family. And, I'm glad he was able to find that and get that opportunity. And, you know, same thing for me, that came up for me. And just I got to know who Mac G was again. Scally put me in a position where, you know, he let me know he was going to get an OC to build things around me and let me get to know who the person was earlier beforehand than, you know, anyone else finding out. And, you know, I just think that was such a big thing for me to hear and to be able to have those conversations. And just where I'm at mentally on a football perspective, you know, McGibbon puts a lot on me. He wants me to be able to have he wants me to be able to hear the call and, you know, repeat it to guys. He wants me to be able to make checks when we need it. Just all the things the quarterback needs to know, protection, and just literally everything. He's putting everything on my plate, and I just feel like that's developed my mind. It's made the game even slower. I mean, we always talk about how fast the game is, and, you know, I'm at that point in my year where I have that experience, and he has so much going on in my mind that I'm able to now slow it down. I'm able to now process everything and just see the small things that you normally can't see in a big picture on the defense. So, yeah, I'm glad where I'm at. I'm happy. The development I've been getting, just kind of finalizing what a true quarterback is. And, yeah, I'm thankful for that every single day.
Well, Dev, I know we've chewed up a lot of your time today. Have a good practice. Have a good remaining few practices in camp. We'll chat again very, very soon. Glad that we're doing this again this year, and very much looking forward to what you and the rest of the Utes can put in front of us on the football field, man.
Yeah, you know it. It's always fun being on here.
That is Devin Dampier. Dishing with Dev is brought to you by America First Credit Union, Culligan Water, Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Look for the truck with the duck. Great stuff from QB1. We'll unpack a little bit of it next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Great to catch up with Devin Dampier. Little dishing with Dev. That'll be Thursdays at noon from here on out. As the season approaches, you know how I asked him who's a young breakout star? You hear who he mentioned? You hear the name he dropped? He didn't say Matiaki Heilu like Morgan Scally did. He said Kelvin Obot is the guy that has impressed him. And I love the way he framed it. Look, sometimes these highly recruited guys come in, a 5-star might not actually look like a 5-star, but that kid does. I think it's a good reflection of how somebody like Kelvin Obot shows up on campus, and everyone's read the articles about you. Everyone sees the 5 stars, this is the highest rated recruit in program history. And the guys who've already been there, the guys who are on the team and probably not making quite as much money as you are getting as this big-time recruit, right? They're looking at you, and they're going, all right, well, let's see what you got, kid. And obviously Devin is the highest-paid player on the team, so I'm not referencing him when I'm saying, but, like, everyone is, hey, do you really have what it takes to live up to this hype? And the fact that it's taking just a couple of months for Kelvin Obot to show QB1 that he is living up to that, you love to hear it, Utah fans.
For sure. And attendant to that, you asked him straight up, how do you feel about your O-line? Inexperience from a starting reps perspective. Not inexperience from just regular game reps, but none of these guys have started before. And he was comfortable saying, I have a high level of trust in them. But then interestingly enough, he was like, if you asked me you did ask him, do you know who the starters are going to be without naming names? And he said, no, we still need some time to figure that out. But he said that he definitely trusts the group. And Kelvin Obot's got to be part of that based on what he said later when you asked him who the breakout star is and how he said he feels like, from his perspective, the kid is living up to the hype.
So as the names are dropping, even from the starting quarterback, football season approaches, you need to get ready for your barbecues, your tailgating, your pregame meals. Southern Steer Butcher is the spot for you to go get the right meats for that. They got great deals on ethically raised, clean poultry, pork, beef. Right now, all natural chicken is under $4 a pound. Boneless pork chops are under $6 a pound. Black Angus ground beef, $7.50 a pound. High quality premium cuts of any meat you can think of. And if they don't have it, if you go down to 1705 North Redwood Road and they don't have what you're looking for, just ask them. Say, hey, can you get me some elk? Can you find me some really lean ostrich? They will find that meat for you.
Ostrich, really?
It's good meat.
Yeah.
It's red meat. You would think because it's a bird that it's like chicken. It's red meat.
Oh.
Join the Southern Steer Rewards Club. They've got daily and weekly savings, right? So like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, each night they're going to have a different special on the menu. And they've got the full meal combos. So even if you're not like this gourmand, somebody who loves to cook, somebody who knows exactly what they're doing to marinate and to dry age and to prep your meat the right way, they take all the guesswork out of it for you by giving you the full meal combos. A meat main and some sides. In fact, right now, mealtime combos, they've got for under $60, for $59, 3 full meals. So for $60, a good, happy, healthy, hearty meal for the whole family for 3 nights of the week. And as everyone's back to school and the sports are starting up again, you're lucky if you can sit down together with the family for even those 3 nights a week. Southern Steer has you covered so that you're not spending all your time shopping for it, then bringing it home and cooking it. They'll just give it to you ready, throw it in the air fryer, throw it in the microwave, throw it in the oven, warm it up, follow the directions, and you're golden. Southern Steer Butcher at 1705 North Redwood Road in Saratoga Springs. When you go in there, tell Dan and Aubrey you heard about it on the Sean O'Connell Show. You want to check out some of the exotic meats. You want to check out this dry aging process that they're going through right now. You want to see what their favorite marinade or dry rub is. and let them walk you through the whole experience. It's a neighborhood butcher shop with the twist of modern convenience. 1705 North Redwood Road, down in Saratoga Springs, more than worth the trip. We do have to get one more PGA Tour leaderboard update in there. The FedEx Cup playoffs at the BMW Championship, brought to you by Uinta Golf. Unlock your game at Golfdom by Worldwide Golf. New low prices on Ping G440 woods and irons. The G440 driver delivers faster ball speeds along with game-changing forgiveness. Right now, $170 off at Uinta Golf. Who's on the leaderboard, James?
So Gary Woodland, he's done for the day. He's at 6 under. He's still your leader. He was at 6 under when we did our first leaderboard update. He's still right there. Wyndham Clark is tied for second with J.J. Spawn, a couple of U.S. Open champions there, both at 5 under, just one shot off the lead. Tied for fourth is a big group, including Ludwig Oberg, Alex Fitzpatrick, Ryo Hisatsune. They're all at 4 under with a couple other guys there, a couple shots off the lead. Tied for eighth, Justin Thomas, Akshay Bhatia, Michael Thorbjornsen at 3 under. That rounds out the top 10. And, guys, Scotty Scheffler's playing. Breaking news. Scotty Scheffler's playing. He might as well not be playing, though, because he's 3 over. He's tied for last. So, unfortunately for Scotty Scheffler, he is playing. That's your PGA Tour leaderboard update from the FedEx Cup playoffs. So get excited. Brought to you by Uinta Golf.
All right, we're going to close it out with some crosstalk with Spence Checketts. And medical professionals are trying to save us from the Big 12 Monster Energy jersey patch. Tell you what I mean next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Final segment of the show is brought to you by Advanced Window Products. 801-850-9100, $2,500 off, 10 windows or more. Number one window replacement company in the western United States, and it happens to be right here in the heart of Salt Lake City with a lifetime warranty on their elite products. All of their products are elite. They don't have like a special line of products that is their elite products. They give you new windows, they're going to warranty those windows for life. Who knew that it would be a group of medical professionals that tried to save us from the Big 12 and Monster Energy collaboration? A group of scientists, doctors, and health professionals has risen to the challenge. This coalition is asking the Big 12 and the NCAA to pause the Big 12 Monster Energy collaboration, the jersey patches, on the basis that energy drinks are a health risk to children. Don't advertise these things to the kids who are going to be watching Big 12 football. Doctors, ma'ams, sirs, I applaud you for trying to save us from these hideous jersey patches.
Doctors plural, not uno doctor.
It's a coalition of health professionals. That's Porter Larson, who will be hosting the drive with Spence Checketts, or for Spence Checketts today. He and Tony Parks filling in on the drive. Several other schools and college players have done sponsorship deals with energy drink companies, including Celsius and Red Bull. But the scope of the Big 12 deal with Monster Energy is what has made this group single out the Big 12. The reason for focusing is the scale and demographics of its audience. Big 12 games could reach 10 to 18 million viewers per weekend, with particularly strong exposure among younger fans. That makes the conference an especially important environment to examine when considering the marketing and consumption of energy drinks among young people.
Okay. I didn't have as visceral of a reaction to the Monster stuff as it seemed the broader sports media community did. Maybe partly because I grew up on a dirt bike and watching Monster AMA Supercross at Rice Cycle Stadium often. What I do have a problem with is obviously the money that seems to be left on the table there.
That's really the problem.
And also just the I guess lack of thought that went into the patches that are and the court and field logos that are going to be on the displayed. It looks like someone's like, oh, it's a partnership between the Big 12 and Monster. Here's a logo. Yeah, it looks bad. It doesn't look good.
What we have seen of the patch so far, it's just a rectangle that on the left side is the Monster green, neon green M.
Oh yeah, they didn't even get like a designer or anything to go over it. They just went logos.
And then Big 12's logo on the right side of the same triangle or same rectangle.
Yeah, so that's more so what I have an issue with. Like if you're going to do a patch on a uniform, make it aesthetically, I guess, not like displeasing to the eye. And then with the doctors thing, but are we also going to have a bunch of doctors or psychologists or otherwise come out and say we can't do like beer, nicotine, gambling partnerships, gambling stuff?
None of those are allowed on jersey patches.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Or has it just not happened yet?
They're not allowed. They're disallowed.
Okay.
You could put them. You could put them on the game program. You just can't put them on the jersey patch.
I think Oklahoma State has a casino. It's a tribal.
It's a tribal coalition.
But the actual patch is the casino that they run. It's the Osage. Yeah.
That's really interesting. There's another one. I think maybe Oregon State. Somebody else just did a tribal patch, and that's what they're advertising is their entertainment properties.
So I don't necessarily disagree with the doctors. Energy drinks in those forms are not exactly recommended.
Outlawed in some countries for children under 18 years of age to consume.
Okay. Especially for children. But this is essentially pro sports now. So if you're going to play pro sports, I don't know where you start playing moral grandstanders as well. That's a tough line to toe.
The ends justify the means here. If you could get the Monster Energy patch to be re-examined, I'm all on board with it. Yeah, Osage Nation and Oklahoma State University have it's just the Osage patch right there on the Oklahoma State jersey.
Mm-hmm. The corporatization takeover of sports has really jumped the shark. We're all the way in now. So if you want to draw a line in the sand at Monster Energy,
well, it is pretty silly.
I think it's a little funny.
What is the speaking of the corporatization and the monetization of all things college football, which of the BYU fan experiences?
I knew you were going here.
Which of the BYU fan experiences that you can now buy would you pay for if I had to make you choose one of them?
I mean, I want to be clear. Cool experiences. You and I have been lucky enough to meet Cosmo.
Yeah.
We've been lucky enough to share Tucano's dinner before a game together.
Right. Correct.
At the press box.
Without having to spend $802 on it.
Yes. We've been down on the field, right? These are privileges that I think you mentioned on the show are awesome. Like, not everyone gets those. We get a credential. It's part of the job, but it's also a real privilege to have that access, right?
100%.
I don't think selling it is necessarily an awful thing in today's age. I think that the way you're going about it is interesting. When you're setting the price point, maybe auction them off. Maybe do like a event where you auction it off. Some of it goes to charity. Some of it goes to your NIL. Some of it goes here or there. And then if that auction makes its way up to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, cool. But to just put a price point on a Tucano's dinner at $800+
That's wild.
To put a price point on, and especially this one, the Cosmo coming to your seat, which used to just be like an organic, fun thing for anyone who happened to be in the stadium
and
potentially.
Presumably still will. I hope.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
Hope.
That one feels a little odd to me because you used to just be like a kid in the stands, and the mascot would come up to. They'd pull the game operator would pull a section out of a hat, and they'd go up, and that section would get tickets or Chick-fil-A or whatever. I think the way in going about it could be thought out a little more, and I think do a raffle, do an auction, do something along those lines where, if there's not interest, then it's not a huge price point.
The raffle thing,
make $10,000 on a family who really wants to sit next to Sean O'Connell in the press box.
The raffle thing that Akron University was doing with that.
I'm a season ticket holder at Akron now, by the way.
Wonderful. You can join the raffle. You can call the first series of the game or whatever. Well, Joe Moorhead can veto your calls, but like that, to me, that's a really cool, more than anything, you're not actually going to get to make a play call, but
what?
Part of that experience is you get to go sit in the coach's meeting. I know dozens and dozens and dozens of fans, probably more than that, would love that opportunity. And if you set the price point for that at $3,200, like you did meeting Cosmo, somebody would be willing to pay it, right? It's better if you do it the way that they did it, where you charge whatever $20 for a raffle ticket, and then if I want to spend $5,000 to maximize my chances to win the raffle, great. I've helped the program raise more money. If I want to put $20 in and then I'm just like, oh, darn it, I didn't hit the raffle, also great. Setting the prices where they have been set is absolutely absurd. $10 for a picture with Cosmo, even that's too much. But you know what? Maybe some families would be willing to pay it. $30 for a press meal or whatever? Sure, maybe. I want to know if they're putting a cap on any of these things. Like how many? If for some reason everyone at LaVell Edwards Stadium wants Tucanos desperately and wants to eat it next to us before the Notre Dame game, are they going to sell 50 of those $800 tickets, or are they going to limit it to like 10 people can do that?
And are we still gonna get our dinner?
Yeah, we're not. If you could sell something for $800, you're not giving it to me for free.
That's what I'm wondering. Also, September 12th is a Saturday. It's a Utes game day, but if I win a certain raffle, I'm going to be unavailable. Just thought I should let you guys know here at ESPN 700.
That's what you're doing with
Joe Moorhead's going to be able to veto me. Is that what I hear?
Yeah.
What?
He has final decision-making power.
There's going to be some issues there if I win that.
I won the raffle fair and square, Coach. You turn your headset off.
Yeah. So just an FYI, I may be unavailable that day.
Are you in your bag in the Akron playbook? Do you already know what you'd be scripting?
I've got it. I got to see what Robert Morris does week 1.
Okay.
I want to see like what I'm working against, right?
Yeah. Right.
They got some new personnel on the defense. I want to see what they come out in. There's still some question marks, but for the most part, like Utah in years past, drive 1, we kind of know what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, look, I scripted my first 4 plays for Utah on air, and the series ended in a touchdown. So.
I love that Utah for like a decade came out and ran this like single eye power right for a decade, and then against Florida, play action, Bryson Barnes goes deep. That was the only time. You can go back and watch the film. I actually went and did this, and it literally is the first play of the year is almost like a traditional like, we're going to punch you in the mouth.
Yes.
Power right. Here we go. Man on man. And they set it up just like they were going to do that. And then Bryson Barnes goes for 60 yards on a deep ball.
First play of the season.
Yeah.
First play. Teddy.
Loved that.
Great. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to be in Ohio September 12th.
Figure out what to pay for your fan experiences, but hopefully you can just still, at some point, get to a game, buy a hot dog, enjoy a game, and you don't have to worry about if you want to take a picture, it's an extra $8.
Yeah.
I was talking with over on the sister station, Ron Weaver, who does a bunch of BYU stuff, helps out with Criddle's show, and Bryce. They were talking about. I didn't even think about this perspective of it. This cash grab happening in Provo immediately after the whole, hey, there's been some unfulfilled promises.
Right.
We're supposed to get some more money, and we didn't get this. And then, this is what you trot out to try to close that gap. I didn't even think of that part of the BYU fan perspective. Like, oh, you want me to pay $3,000 to meet Cosmo because you didn't handle your booking, your bookkeeping correctly.
Well, and as we continue to talk about how monetary value kind of takes over college sports in a way that it always has been a part of it. Coaches have been paid bazillions of dollars for the better part of the last few decades, but you see it at Utah, right? I don't know that Utah goes after Freddie Whittingham for $500,000 if this isn't today's age where that's like a good offensive lineman.
That's right.
That's one of your linebackers, right? Because they're going to be paying a bunch in legal fees. They've probably already paid a bunch in legal fees to even start that process. I don't know that they see that as worth it in past iterations of college football. NBA stuff, like we could go on and on about how the corporate side, the C-suites, if you will, the suits are kind of putting their thumb on sports in a way that feels like a lot, maybe a little much.
And now the fan awareness of that is stronger than it's ever been. Not only is it getting worse, but our access to that information is a lot smoother now. To where, like, when I was a kid, I didn't know what my favorite basketball players' contracts look like.
Well, and they also weren't. You didn't know, but they also weren't like as insane as they are now.
Sure.
And they also, if they were getting paid under the table, it wasn't through like 5 different large companies who are affiliated with your billionaire owner. It was with the car dealership next door, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten into a weird space with sports world, especially in college. But hey, this is the business we've chosen.
Stay tuned for the drive. It'll be Porter Larson and Tony Parks holding it down for Spence Checketts today. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Bill Riley, voice of the Utes, is hosting in my stead tomorrow. I'm headed to Tampa to call the final fights of the summer. So after that, we're back in full speed ahead on college football season. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.